Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. Welcome to Lore Crimes. Today, I have to make a quick announcement that last episode of Iceberg Effect, we did a question of the week bit, and we read out your answers and forgot to give you a new one. So,
yeah, that was a bit of an oops, bit of a goof.
because we never make mistakes. We're always doing it. This is perfectly professionally run podcast. However, with that in mind, we're going to give you a question of the week right now, so you can prepare it in the comments for the next episode. With because we're talking about a particular dynamic duo today, we want you guys to use hashtag buddies. Who in the Warhammer, either fantasy or 40k setting, would you have as a best buddy to go on adventures with? If I was to pick one, I'd pick Cypher, just because we could teleport around and be sneaky and a bit silly. So yes.
Well, I was going to say
buddies.
I was going to say Bill Clinton for some reason, but he's not in Warhammer.
But Henry Kissinger.
Oh no. Yeah. That's going to time this podcast.
Which is dead.
Yeah, literally in minutes. Colin put it in in our Discord chat, just like, look what happened. We're like, what's going on? But either way, Kissinger aside. So today, without further ado, may I pass it over to Eli? What are we talking about today, Eli?
Eli, you're muted.
Eli.
Sorry. We're talking about Godric and Felix today. The best dynamic duo to ever exist in all of Warhammer, perhaps fiction. Basically, Legolas and Gimli, but a little more goofy. So
if
Godric,
Legolas was his whipping bitch.
Yeah.
And he had more than 3 lines.
Yeah, true.
A sprinkling of maybe Pippin inside there, just a little bit, just a sprinkle.
We have Godric, who is a dwarf slayer. Dwarf slayers are dwarves who have shamed themselves in some way, or are trying to atone for sin. So they go take the Slayer's oath and they try to seek a glorious death in battle. Felix is basically a human bard who went through a training accident and killed a guy in a duel, and so he got kicked out of the college he was in, and they're both wanted men, or man and dwarf at this point. They participated in some window tax riots and killed some Reichsguard.
I hate Windows. So annoyed at Windows. Never forgiven Windows since.
We do a little bit of inciting civil unrest. That's the first crime to add to the
That's
list.
why I've covered my windows so as not to offend Hal. That's why they're drawn.
Incoming backup from
Ravenous
15.
Windows.
Thank you for the 15 squigglies. Before you start, I gotta ask, you talking about the AOS Godric books as well? No, today we are actually only covering Troll Slayer and Skaven Slayer.
One day we will get there.
I should also mention that before the stream even started, we got a donation from Grimdark Half Off, who also runs a great Warhammer channel, for $10. And he said, "Love you guys. I've listened to all the Godric and Felix novels. They are a great time. Would love to see Pancreas and others do a Warhammer Fantasy Elves versus Elder Scrolls Elves episode someday. Maybe we will."
Oh, dude, I'm gonna get fucking racist on that one.
Get rid of the
who's gonna argue for
Colin's a Stormcloak confirmed.
Who's gonna argue for the elves in Skyrim though, or Elder Scrolls elves? Who's gonna
the superior race?
That?
Clearly.
All
right.
Right.
I guess Hal's doing it.
There we go. Hashtag Falmore Embassy Man over here with his membership card.
I love you, Pellinol. I'd die for you. Anyways.
Has anyone, when they were entering the Thalmor Embassy, ever screwed it up royally the first time? I didn't understand what I was doing.
I don't know.
I was watching the Spiffing Brit yesterday, and there's a thing I saw. I didn't realize you can get a wooden plate and use it to shift through into the embassy before you activate the quest.
Walls.
I was like, oh, that's
Good old Skyrim.
Good old Skyrim glitch.
Oh man, but anywho, if memory serves me correctly, did Godric save Felix's life, or did Felix save Godric's life?
Godric saved Felix.
Yeah. Okay, and then Felix
charge of the Reichsguard.
Yes. Okay, and then Felix swore an oath to Godric that he'd follow him around and write poems and stories about him and document his
doom,
his final doom in an epic tale of story. Unfortunately for Felix, who thought this was just going to be maybe a year-long thing, Godric just doesn't die ever, and so he's kind of pledged eternal service at this point.
He lived past an entire setting, so
it's your
He's
It's your
never
classic.
unemployed.
It's your
Andy, I
classic tall
cannot
friend and
believe
short friend gym duo
that you
go to
have
the gym
left out
together.
both Barden and Snorri
And he put
uh,
Alfarius
in favor
on
of
the list.
Alfarius.
It was
This
just
guy.
shorter than the
God.
others. That's all.
Oh,
All right,
man.
fair enough. That worked. That never mind. It's actually very funny then.
Oh my
And
god.
so, yeah, they pretty much go around with the most insane, I don't know, plot armor you could ever conceive. They're undefeatable combatants, and they're just a great time.
It's
I think
it's not
that's
that Gotrek isn't trying to die. He's given it his all
he
every
is.
single story.
Every story, half of it's him killing stuff, and the other half is him depressed because he's not dead yet. So
But not like
They're-
Dante, like angrier than Dante.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an angry depression.
yeah,
It's also, to be fair, like you don't even have to necessarily know too much about the Warhammer worlds, Warhammer old world, excuse me, unfortunately, end times, to
Rip.
kind of get into the Gotrek and Felix books. They're a good time. It's like his own isolated thing. You don't have to
Mhm.
have crazy Warhammer knowledge. In fact, it's probably the best way to learn about Warhammer
Obviously, yeah.
fantasy.
It's
If
really
anything,
fun.
they're like the best primer to the setting because they go around. If they don't go there, it's at least like a character from somewhere is probably featuring, so you can learn about the world through that. Like,
Yeah.
And they kill
spoilers
every
for
single
later on.
monster.
Yeah,
They
if there's
they do have that. I want to say that a similar thing would be like that Mandalorian energy, where it's like they're not going to change the future of the. Well, they're obviously important, but like they can just go on little adventures and that's fine. It's like it doesn't have to be the big laser beam in the sky, Avengers Endgame.
yeah,
It's like no, we're just killing an orc today. Cool.
not till later on. Yeah, later on they start getting like more and more important, but like the first half of all the stories there, and it's like they could not do this, and honestly, the world would not change that much.
Yeah.
Are you telling me though that in the fourth book, when they sent that ship at light speed into the other fleet in episode 8, that you didn't enjoy?
Okay.
That
No
moment.
one
Calm
enjoyed
down.
that. It
Calm
was cool
down.
visually and awful
It
in
was.
every other way.
But what about not a Death Star, but a Death World? Episode 7, boys. You telling me you don't enjoy a Death Star planet?
I love episode 4, but it's like copy and pasted, so it's dragged up.
R.I.P. to be fair, how many people here came from Star Wars into Warhammer? Because again, it was dying, unfortunately. I think with that being said, though, Colin, are you ready to guide us on our journey for like the best duo, perhaps in all of Warhammer?
I am happy to do so. I will say, I'll preface again. We were the original plan was we'd do like one omnibus at a time, and then the notes kept going and going and going. And for reference, I have about like I try and go for like 6 or 7 like notes when I'm doing the expert section. I'm at 10, and I only did Skaven Slayer and Troll Slayer. So in the interest of not having a 50-hour long podcast episode,
And bear in mind, there's like a billion books as well. We're going to have to crack into at some point.
that we're just gonna do Troll Slayer and Skaven Slayer and go from there.
I do believe one comment from Josh here says, could Gotrek have single-handedly stopped Archeon and the End Crimes?
If he was there,
Oh.
probably.
Greatest
Probably.
wish.
But,
Never has a wish been more needed
He was.
than
Do
any
we-
of it. Oh,
Is there ever an
Hey.
explanation on why he is so powerful, or is he's just awesome?
There is.
Okay,
There
well, don't
is.
spoil it. Don't.
we
Spoil
can't go
it
into
yet.
that yet. I think.
Yeah, you know,
It's a bit early.
but that's spoiler for like last Gotrek and Felix book.
Dang. Okay.
So
But we'll begin with the old world, boys. If people who are watching are not as familiar with Warhammer Fantasy, honestly, well, first of all, watch Colin's channel because he's got lots of stuff on it.
Mhm.
You probably already know his channel anyway. But it's honest.
watch all.
Genuinely, it's a fantastic universe. Oh, we got a donation from a crazy Scotsman.
Thank you, sir.
How badly would Gotrek
Thank
body the Primarchs? Not all at once.
Well, he
and
could
he
take
could-
them all at once. He could take them all at
He
once.
could wipe Lorgar. He could wipe Lorgar.
You know that scene where Yoda fights Count Dooku in episode 3? He's jumping around, spinning, and he's like, "Ugh." It'd be like that.
I said,
Nice.
at this point in the story, he could probably give some of the weaker ones a good fight, but I don't think he'd win. By Age of Sigmar, minor spoiler alert. I think if he was in 40k, he'd walk into the room, the vengeful spirit, and then he would walk out. And then by the time Singudius would get there, all he'd see is a short, red-headed man complaining about how human demigods are shit.
So, before we start, We got this comment from Harry Ballantyne says that it's nice that Eli, Hal, and Colin and Andy match up perfectly to Gotrek, Felix, Snorri, and Ulrika. Who's Ulrika? Is
I-
Andy Ulrika? By how you
who's
wrote that?
Who's Ulrika? Who's the pretty? Is they saying who's the
Ulrika
pretty one?
Johnson. What?
No. You have to,
Oh
Am I
you have
Gotrek
to
or Snorri?
list us all. We need to know because who is Snorri
Yeah, we
knows
need
by
to
himself.
have them. Otherwise, we're just going to squabble about who. Because I know the characters, but I don't know them that well either. So I'll just be like, oh, I'm fine with Ulrika. Or whoever.
With that being said,
She's a very
though,
nice lady.
we should probably we probably shouldn't tease it too much, and let's get down into the
Yes.
juicy
All
lore.
right.
Colin.
Let's do it. Troll Slayer is the first story in Gotrek and Felix, and the first two stories, Troll Slayer especially, are not written as one long narrative, which I did not know until I was going back through like plot synopsis and looking up the books just for refresh the memory. Turns out they the first two were just kind of written like one-off stories that were then combined into Troll Slayer, and Skaven Slayer is a bit more cohesive. It's like stories that all lead to a greater whole, but they're all also like self-contained things. I did not know that till I started doing this. So the first story in Troll Slayer is Geheimnisnacht. There's going to be a lot of German names in this. The Empire of Man is very German, and that's where most of their stories take place. So just get ready for that. This one takes place shortly after they leave Altdorf, after Felix is nearly killed by the Reichsguard, and then they swear the drunken oath. And now Felix is Gotrek's rememberer. Doesn't quite flow off the tongue like Remembrancer, I have to say, but it works. They're traveling together on a coach. Thank you for the dabbing.
We do have a
Just-
donation.
donation,
Here.
yeah.
Do you want to read that out, Eli?
Elliot Hopt says, who would win in a fight? Tyrion with the Sword of Cain or Johnny Cage while International Love is
Oh,
playing?
Crimson.
And then Crimson Glory
Oh,
back.
Crimson
breaks.
Glory again.
Crimson Glory says, here's a tenner and some change. That's a lot of change, bro. But thank you.
Jesus.
Let the egg meme die and bring upon the new era, Bach. I love y'all and happy holidays. Also hope
Happy
you checked out
holidays.
Shadow of Intent, Colin.
I
So
did.
for the first question, Johnny Cage is undefeatable.
Dude,
So,
when International Love is playing, he's fucking unbeatable.
And thank you, Crimson. I was not here for the Bach meme. I'm not gonna lie.
We don't even know what Bok means. To
Lizard,
be honest.
what the
We
lizardmen
could-
say when they're fighting. That's it.
We could just get some like steamed bok choy and just gnaw on that for like a few minutes. And say, yum, 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 yum.
You can't see my tummy, but I'm rubbing
Bach in
it,
the
so
chest.
that's what it
Walk in
tastes.
chat. But
Bok and stone.
Geheimnisnacht, man, saying that is already throwing me for a loop.
Geheimnisnacht.
Thank you, Hal. This is, like I said, shortly after they leave Altdorf, they're traveling together on a coach, where they're then kicked out of the coach because Gotrek is bad-mouthing the coach driver and his wife. Gotrek, as you will learn both throughout this and as you read the books, is a very unpleasant dwarf to be around. He's rude. He's an asshole. He likes starting fights, whether he's drunk or not. Not even like to fulfill the Slayer oath. He just likes fighting. He just likes beating people's heads in. So they're kicked out. In the meantime, a second coach nearly runs them down, a black coach this time. And Gotrek, having nothing better to do since his old purpose now is to seek death, vows they're going to go beat that guy up. Well, they're going to go kill him, realistically. Gotrek rarely leaves people unconscious. There's also a great quote where Felix says, how about we go to an inn instead? Anyone want to read this bad boy out? This is one of my favorite quotes. I'll just throw it in the Discord for... Oh, no, I can throw it in the... I forget there's a side chat here. And,
We have another donation. I don't know what that is. ISK 300. Thank you, sir. Who gets more wenches, Felix or Kaivis Kane? I think
That's a
Felix. I'm
tough
not gonna lie,
question.
bro.
it's
Felix is the womanizer.
Felix. I'm going to go Felix.
Do you want for
here's
the
a-
quote here? Should we have Andy be Felix
yeah.
and Eli be thematic Gotrek in the
Sure.
side chat here?
Although I have a quick
Sure.
question before we go on. Eli, in your opinion, who gets more wenches, Felix or Fulgrim?
Oh, it's gotta be
Can't ask him
Felix
that.
Got
still.
him. Got him.
Fulgrim, don't be Fulgrim ain't about
We
that
know he
life.
got married
I don't
once.
think. Yeah, I don't know if Fulgrim even has anything down there. I don't know if they ever really confirmed that or not for
Is
the
it confirmed that
Primarchs.
Primarchs are
Um,
smooth bumped?
I mean, they have to
We
use
have to
the
ask if
bathroom.
Rain.
Do they?
Yes, they have to use the bathroom at some point. They eat food.
Yeah, but their
Yeah,
bodies
but it
are
might
so
just be, like,
perfectly made that they don't have to
metabolized
excrete
instantly.
anything.
Just like
They just
steam
use
comes
all the
out
food
and
that
that's
they
it.
eat.
That's not how that works.
Sure, they can take the urea from protein and use it for their body's use or something. I don't know,
Oh
bro.
god.
Okay.
To be fair, Fulgrim loves nothing better than his own image, so he could never love a
Yeah,
woman.
fair enough.
He could never.
Samples his own secret sauce. Anyway, so
Eli's
are we-
Godric and Andy is
Okay.
Felix.
okay.
Okay.
So do you want to go for it?
You're weakling, manling, and a coward too.
They'll have ale.
But sometimes your suggestions have merit.
Yeah.
That is their
Very
relationship
Godric.
early on. Felix doesn't suggest things to Godric so much as he tries to course correct the hurricane of violence that is Godric. Especially because at this point, Felix isn't where he is towards the end of the series, where he's also a murder machine. He just doesn't think he is because he has to compare himself to Godric. Felix is still like fresh out of college at this point. The college he was expelled from, by the way. So he's
He's on a really, really dangerous gap year.
Yeah, he took up dueling in college, and he did actually accidentally killed someone, which I believe is why he got expelled. So
Yeah.
he's not horrible, but he hasn't seen what the Warhammer worlds have to offer yet. So he
He's
tries
getting
to
worse, man.
steer clear of it.
Another from Crimson Glories putting
Thank
our
you,
children
Crimson
through
Glory.
university.
Oh,
Fulgrim
my.
doesn't get wenches, he takes them because he's a monster.
He used to be a
Unfortunately,
nice
accurate.
guy.
that's probably thematic currently.
Nowadays, yeah.
Probably can't say what he's intending on YouTube, but we'll leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there, shall we say?
We'll leave it
it
there. And upon reaching the inn where Felix's meritful suggestion was, they find that the innkeeper and his wife they're missing, and that a coven operating what is known as the Darkstone Ring, so evil Stonehenge, if you want a visual for that, is probably took them. So Gotrek figures that's as good a way to pass the time as any. So they go to find the coven, and they find it without too much difficulty. This is a fairly short story, and discover that it's a secret cult dedicated to Slaanesh. And the driver of that black coach is also a part of it. And additionally, the husband and the innkeeper and his wife were also part of the coven of Slaanesh. This ends, as all Gotrek and Felix stories will from here on out. Gotrek wanders in, starts just brutally murdering people. Felix actually gets a couple of kills, but this is like his first time in active combat, so he's pretty shaken up, and then he looks over to his right, and Gotrek has left a mountain of corpses. That's lovely.
He's just wringing blood out of his mohawk. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. Like, usually they dye their mohawks to keep them orange. I don't think Gotrek needs to do that.
his is just stained over use.
Yeah. And they also find out that, good, the cult of Slaanesh is about to sacrifice a baby. Thankfully, they interrupted that. Since, however, the innkeeper and his wife are dead, they don't really have anything to do now because the tavern is not providing them with ale, which means Gotrek no longer cares about this place. The fighting is done. There's no beer to be had. It's time to move on. So they rescue the baby. They bring it back to the town. And that's the first Gotrek and Felix story. It's not too long. It's short and sweet, this one, but it's still a nice introduction to it. Like we were saying, it gives you like a bit of a what life is like in Warhammer Fantasy, some of the dangers and whatnot. Also, a fun fact about it, this was supposed to be the only Gotrek and Felix story. When William King wrote it, he originally planned for Gotrek to die, and then it wasn't even GW told him to keep him around. He was just like, I like these characters too much. I'm not going to kill him.
And what's the first one called?
Troll Slayer.
The first story collection is Troll Slayer. This one is Geheimnisnacht.
And you say it's short and sweet. How short is it?
20, 30 pages.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, not long. Like I was saying, the first anthology is not super long individual stories. It's just there's a lot of them. So covering it means I need to talk about most of the story, because if I try and skip important bits or skip bits, it's all important because it's like a 30-page novella.
If I'm correct, isn't Gehenna Schnacht, is that the event where the moon reflects warp stones? It turns
It
like
is.
green in the night.
It's one of the days Morslieb, I believe, overtakes Monslieb, the
So
Warpstone
it's a
moon.
very ominous night for
Yeah.
all kinds of chaos shenanigans.
Chaos cultists rise up, and as a general thing, since the undead and necromancy is a thing, skeletons and zombies pop up everywhere. It's not pleasant. Happy Halloween.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
Mhm.
after that, GW was like, damn, we like these characters too. Why don't you write us some more? And then 17 books happened.
Whoops.
Then he rubbed his hands
Oops.
together and went, oh, this is going to be good. I'm going to get lots of royalties.
Yeah.
Not all by William King, we should say, but
No.
Oh, okay.
he wrote a lot of these, and he got the journey going.
I
Where's
imagine
the-
he's still getting a decent few royalties.
Hopefully. Where's
Hopefully.
the next stop in the road then for the two boys?
The next one is Wolf Riders. So this one begins with Felix adding to the wench count, as it were. He's defending a woman from 3 rather gruff-looking trappers. They all have names, but to be quite honest with you, they're side characters in a story about Gotrek and Felix. I'm not giving them their names. They are trappers 1, 2, and 3.
Heavy side character energy.
They are
essentially.
the epitome of side character energy. When I say he was defending them, I mean he took some punches to the face and didn't pass out until Gotrek shows up and throws them all out. Somehow he doesn't kill them. Not quite sure, even to this day, why he didn't just do that. But now they can properly introduce ourselves between Felix and the woman whose name is Kirsten. She explains her last name is Von Deal, and her family is migrating to the borderlands, roughly like southeast of the Empire, because they're just a little bit too cursed for polite imperial society. They're not. It's just a little bit of a social faux pas having a cursed bloodline. No, not quite wanting that around.
Fair enough.
Gotrek and Felix are headed that direction anyway, since they're going to the Borderlands as well. So they join up with the group, and Felix and Kirsten fall madly in love. This is Felix's first love interest. Judging by the way you say first, you can probably guess how this story ends.
Oh,
Of several.
Of several.
poor Felix.
This one is actually pretty damn sad, though. It's to a point where Felix is like, I'm going to tell Gotrek, you know what? I was very drunk. This whole oath thing, not my thing. I'm going to go retire with Kirsten and live happily ever after. Which is probably would have led to Gotrek cutting his head off at this point of the story. He's breaking an oath to a dwarf, which is a big no-no, and that dwarf is Gotrek. So at this point of the story, if Felix left, he probably would have died then and there. Thankfully, however, in a manner of speaking, they're camping out in a region known as the Cursed Hills on the way to the Borderlands. Lovely. And naturally, for the Cursed Hills, undead attack the caravan. They hold them off reasonably well. Felix kills Trapper number 3 because he went a little bit insane when that happened. This is why I gave them names. Their purpose is to cause slight drama for everyone involved.
Now one of them has just turned into a nice little hat, and that's all.
Yeah, now one of them is now past tense. And in order to find safety until they can regroup and set out, they go off to make camp in a ruined fort. And this is the first time we get a hint at what Gotrek's life is like prior to becoming a Slayer, because he starts fixing up the fort real well. And you learn he was a dwarf engineer before he took the oath to have to get himself killed in battle. He's got some handyman skills. The whole time he's complaining that this is human, shoddily made crap fort, but that's every dwarf having to interact with a human in this setting.
I'm just thinking of Ron Swanson from Parks and Recs now, just him going with the shopping trolley, just like, hey, can I help you with anything? I know more than you. And he just walks off.
That's basically what was going down.
We do have a donation from Lelouch Ryu. He says,
Thank you.
always a great way to start my Saturday morning. Love the live streams and love you all. Keep up the good work. Bok. Thank you very much.
Love you too. Love you too,
Bok. We should get a symbol going for it like that. No, that's we can't do this. No, that's wrong.
Get
a hand sign going.
Yeah. Just as they're they're at the fort, they're getting ready though. Wolf riders attack, which are goblins riding wolves. Very
Mm.
very self-explanatory name. A whole ton of people are injured this time around because they're still kind of coming to grips, like fortifying and getting ready, including Kirsten and the leader of the Von Deals, who are sent back to a sorcerer who's their like medical aide, a sorceress, and she's like, "Yes, I will take care of them." So Felix and the rest of the people who aren't injured are getting ready to defend the fort from the siege of goblins all around them. And after about a day of absolutely no word on how everyone's recovering, Felix goes, maybe I should check on them. And it turns out he goes to do that, and all of the Von Deals are dead, including Kirsten. The sorceress they had healing them is dead, except for the nephew of the leader of the Von Deals. Anyone want to guess? This is a complete coincidence, but does anyone want to guess what the name of the nephew is?
Heinrich,
Nope.
maybe.
It's,
You're on the right track.
What's his name?
Kevlar.
Manfred.
His name is Manfred.
Hey, nice.
It's completely unrelated to Manfred von Karstein, but we have a second Manfred has struck Warhammer.
Oh, and by the way, we got a donation from Bunny Cop for $10 saying, Gotrek and Felix, old Grimdark fans, screw you. We will have airships and screwball comedy. And for some reason, it got money thrown at it for $17. Yeah,
That's right.
Pretty much.
Thank you for the
it.
$10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Manfred killed them all because their curse was mutation when their grandfather was cursed by a heretic. And he decided that if there's no more Von Deals, there can't be a curse on the Von Deals anymore. So he just killed them all.
Wow.
Sound logic.
Huh.
Thinking outside the box.
That's one way of solving the issue.
He's not technically wrong, but maybe you could have found a better way.
So I just point out someone put Bock and Stone in the
Bock and Stone.
Bock and Stone.
That might have
in
been
the
my
chat.
fault. I started that.
There's no egg today. I'm sorry,
No
chat.
egg. No egg.
I'm literally out of eggs. There's not an egg in my fridge.
No egg.
Manfred and Felix duel. Felix kills him and is utterly depressed because the love of his life has died in his arms. Kirsten wasn't quite dead yet. I flubbed a bit. He watched her die.
Mm.
Oh, at least a Manfred
Jeez.
did die in the setting,
Manf-
so there's a
Manfred-
big win.
One Manfred did finally die. Thank the Lord.
He was past tensed, which is
Yeah.
my new favorite term, by the
He
way.
was past tensed. And Felix walks outside to see a very predictable sight of Gotrek standing atop a pile of corpses, many goblins, many humans, a goblin shaman that was there, and Trappers 1 and 2. So that's finally come around. Thank you, Trappers 1 and 2. You died. Thank you for coming. I will now forget about you for the rest of
done
time.
a live. Now get out of the script, please. We don't need
Pretty
you.
much. Gotrek has lost his eye in the process, so if you're wondering why he always has an eye patch, he lost it here. He seems remarkably unbothered by it, and as the surviving humans reform the caravan and get going to the Border Princes, Gotrek and Felix head off for the next step on their journey. So that is the end of Wolf Riders. The next one is called The Dark Beneath the World, and the threat level takes a bit of a leap. So just, for reference, they've killed some goblins. They've killed the Slaanesh cult that was completely unimportant. Like, it was just cultists. No demons were involved. So bottom of the barrel cultists, some goblins, which are only slightly above that. The next logical step is, of course, Carrick 8 Peaks, which for those of you who aren't familiar, Stalingrad, but there's rats, goblins, and magic.
Oh, great.
It's huge as well, isn't it? It's absolutely enormous. This
like
hold.
An entire mountain range city with 8 peaks being the main focal point. That is a dwarven ruin. Used to be one of the greatest cities they had. Now it's constantly filled with dwarfs, orcs, greenskins, goblins, all killing each other throughout the whole thing. It is, short of walking into the realm of chaos, the most dangerous place you can be in the Warhammer world.
Right.
I think in Total War, Belagar Ironhammer is the dwarf who his campaign seeks to reconquer 8 Peaks,
Yeah.
and his clan used to rule, I believe, right?
Yeah, they used to rule it way back when.
Way back in the day. But a
but
grudge is never forgotten.
grudges
That's
never
right.
end.
That's right.
A dwarf never forgets and also never forgives. He just complains. But yeah, so that's where they're going because they think there's going to be great treasure there and probably a good death for Gotrek, which I can't fault him on that last one. On the way there, they come across a band of men under attack by orcs, most of whom die. The men, 3 of them live, but the orcs are also pretty quickly dealt with because they're unnamed enemies in the first few pages of the Gotrek and Felix book. They are not long for the world. The 3 survivors from the party they kind of rescued is one Aldridge Kepler, a knight of the Templars of the Fiery Heart, which is just the Empire of Man also has knights. They're kind of fallen into irrelevancy as time goes on, but they're there. Johann Zauberlich, a sorcerer who has a very fun name to say, and Jules Gascoigne, a Bretonnian scout, and therefore garbage human being.
Hey,
Come
on.
They all sound like footballers. Like if everyone here is watching football in the UK, the basically just reading off any like Manchester City team. Shout out to Man City if anyone here supports them. And they have, like, Colin and Eli have no idea what I'm talking about.
I know that they exist.
I barely know what you're talking about.
Bruh, oh, that's a proper law crime.
Soccer is undoubtedly a sport.
It's not called soccer.
Yep.
It's just not called soccer.
Yeah, I love
It's
soccer,
really
bro.
not.
It's not, but I don't have any skin in the game. I'm like, yeah, let's call it soccer. I don't.
Why
mind.
would you call it soccer? It's football because they actually kick with their
Because
feet.
there's a
already
lot
have
of
a football.
suckers who watch it.
They
with
run.
them
They
to
hold it in their hands and run with it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
why is it
Yeah,
football?
It starts with a kickoff, so there you go.
Which one more deserves to be football?
The American one.
Clearly.
USA.
We can start arguing about breakfast now as well. Listen, okay. So
That's
keep going,
fine.
keep going. We were talking about the Bretonian and it got me fired up.
No, you don't want to keep going about football.
Someone said our Man City good footballers, they're number 1 basically for like the last few years, so hell yeah.
Good for them. Football.
Thank you. You called it football. Yes.
Anyway, not football related.
Just wondering, is it called the Super Bowl because they make pottery at some point?
I don't know
What?
why it's called the Super
The
Bowl.
No,
Super Bowl.
it's pronounced
It's a cool
Superb
name.
Owl. There you go.
Super Bowl.
I
There's
like
a whole subreddit where it's just owl pictures and it's called Superb Owl and it gets a big spike during the Super Bowl. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man!
It's just like the Dark Angel subreddit. Don't look that up if you're looking for Dark Angel.
Thank you, Harry
Space
Ballantyne.
Marines.
Rugby. To be fair, rugby is better. Rugby is better. Definitely. Keep going. Sorry, the Bretonian Johan
right,
has entered the
those-
chat.
Those 3 gentlemen are also on a way to Carrick 8 Peaks on their own quest, so they figure, hey, let's all 5 of us journey together. They enter a dwarven outpost outside of Carrick 8 Peaks, like the entrance where Belagar Ironhammer is just chilling out. He's just there, which I remember reading then going, isn't he really important? Why is he just in this story? Just with no ceremony.
Holy crap. We
so-
got a very large donation from
Whoa,
Anthony
whoa.
Fackenthal for $200. Thank
Oh
you
my
very much.
word.
Love you a long time.
Thank you,
cheers.
Anthony.
Cheers, fellas. Always glad to catch y'all live. Putting a mohawk on my Votan call and have my head canon that instead of Gotrek killing demons until it was Age of Sigmar, he was killing them until it was 40k Rock and Stone. That's epic, bro.
That is
Thank you
epic.
so much.
Rock and
Thank you
stone
so
indeed.
much.
Thank you.
That's
Goodness
very
gracious.
generous, Anthony. Thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
Thank you.
You guys are too
Wow.
nice to us.
Belagar brings out the love. doesn't it?
Belagar! Anyway, yeah. They ask for permission to enter 8 Peaks and receive it, and are basically wished, good luck with that, guys. Have fun. And it is soon revealed that the 3 men, 2 men and a Bretonian, were journeying to retrieve an artifact from Aldred's Order. Karagul, a magical sword that was lost one of the last times the dwarfs tried to retake that awful hellhole of a city. It did not go well. It never goes well trying to enter Carrick 8 Peaks.
It's a good sword, by the way.
It is a
It's-
very
oh, sorry,
good sword. That'll
another
become
donation.
relevant later.
Stephen
Oh,
Cooper, thank
thank
you. Which one deserves to be called football? The one that's always been called football, or the one that started as soccer? Just asking. I don't know what that means.
As
I'm
they-
being honest.
I'm going to assume you're on the American side, so hell yeah.
It sounds like it. Yeah, good job, buddy.
Oh no, no. It's not,
Yeah.
most of the world doesn't watch it. That's the problem.
Skill issue.
True.
Anyway,
Can't play it.
a priestess of the dwarf goddess Valaya also warns the group that evil lurks in the heart of the city, so be careful. But they go in anyways because that's both the vaguest warning you could possibly give in like a fantasy setting. There's evil afoot. Thank you. Gotrek seeks death, so that's enticing him, if anything. And everything inside Carrick 8 Pigs is evil. It's filled with orcs and Skaven. It sucks in there. So yeah, that warning doesn't do much. The journey inside is pretty regularly broken up with fights against goblins, orcs, more goblins, and more orcs. But they're also followed by strange lights the whole way, and they're kind of creeping everyone out. Eventually, the lights are revealed to be dwarf ghosts, who beg Gotrek for help clearing out an evil that's settled in their tomb and is disturbing their rest. And Gotrek agrees, because even as a slayer, he's still a dwarf. You gotta respect the ancestor tombs. He agrees to help him out. So underneath all of him insulting random caravan drivers' wives, he is ultimately a good hero. Way down.
Deep, very deep.
Very deeply down. Eventually,
Sorry, Crimson Glory gave us $9.99 US
Thank
dollars. It says, Eli, you should never have to eat an egg again. I'll donate to make sure it doesn't happen. This is my character arc. There you go.
A
Beautiful.
donation character
Bless.
arc is the
No more.
strangest thing I've
Thank
ever heard in my life. But
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Crimson Glory.
Thank you.
The chat about football is not stopped, by the way. Like it's still going.
Yeah. But yeah, they come to a great treasure room, and on top of the pile of treasure is that Caragul sword. Hey, look, they already found it. But before Aldrich can grab it, a heavily mutated troll busts in and just kind of rips his head off. So, thank you, Aldred, for your time here. You were appreciated. Good luck in the afterlife. And as the group starts fighting it, they realize they can't damage it for more than a moment, because trolls already can regenerate pretty heavily in Warhammer. And to top it off, this one's been mutated by Warpstone, which wonder how that Warpstone got here. So it basically supercharged its regeneration. They can get a single blow in, and then it's healed. The scout and the sorcerer die, but not before the sorcerer figures out fire will obliterate this thing. So Felix tosses lantern oil on top of it, sets it on fire, and that lets Gotrek finally put the damn thing down. As they do that, a horde of goblins and orcs enters the room, and Gotrek and Felix prepare to finally end their story. And then a army, Eli, you were saying the plot armor's here.
That's right, baby.
You know, this one was earned. I'd say this one was earned. The dwarf ghosts from earlier, as thanks for clearing the tomb of the horrible troll, form an army of dwarf ghosts, killing most of the orcs and routing the rest. Gotrek complains to them that they stole a great doom from him because 100 orcs is as good a way to go as any, as far as he's concerned. And they tell him that a much greater doom is coming for him, and soon.
Dwarf ghost sounds cool. It's just like that scene of
They are pretty cool.
you
It's like
take
the
that
Lord of the
scene
Rings
from-
scene, basically.
Yeah, you take that scene,
Yeah.
but then you just like squash it, and you're like, yeah, I can visualize it now.
It's the Lord of the
basically it.
Rings. It's Pelennor Fields, but you can see above, like the entire thing. You can stand way at the back.
To be
and
honest, if
still
you were
see
like
what's happening.
archers, you could stand among them and shoot over their heads. That would be quite effective.
Oh, Tom Warren has given $10. Thank you, Tom. He says,
Thank you.
have some money because Colin is the reason I have decided to read Gotrek and
Hell yeah.
Felix, and I'm
Hey,
already
nice.
obsessed with it.
Nice.
That's
Do you ever
very
wonder
good.
More
how
Gotrek
many-
and Felix is good.
Do you ever wonder how
Yeah.
many people you've gotten to read a book, whether it's Gotrek and Felix or a Space Marine book or whatever? Because
I don't know.
get comments like, "Oh, I read this. Thanks for the video."
I don't know about that, but I have been told by numerous people that Bretonia hatred was not nearly as prevalent before I came around.
Yeah, I
so you
agree
know what,
with
that that one, badge of fucking pride right there.
Man.
That is Talk about an effect on the community.
It's so sad. It's so
What's
sad.
your it's also like, what's your legacy? And you just look back and there's just a bunch of people going, fuck Bretonia.
Oh,
You're about to
gosh.
be released in the New World stuff.
I did
Or Oddworlds.
good. I did good.
Nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh. Gotcha. Oh, what's up?
No, go ahead.
They decide not to take any treasure because that would just disturb the dwarf's rest again. But Felix does take Caragul to honor the memory of the comrades he fought alongside, and because cool magic sword. Let's be honest. He at least in part took that because it's a cool magic sword.
Yeah, baby.
They're very mercenary heroes. For every great good thing they do, it's like genuinely like that's just straight up heroic. There's also something perhaps a little bit less
You've
noble.
saved my orphanage full of children. Well, that's pretty swell and all, but I'd like to explain to you my fee. And then he's there with like a lighter, just going,
Yep.
"It'd be a real shame if you didn't pay my fee."
We're pretty damn broke. Can you do us a favor?
Yeah, they have to
To be fair,
poop
they
in one of
met
the
because
books.
didn't Gotrek attack the Reichsguard?
Yeah,
Yeah, he killed Reichsguard Knights, which are the guard. I
It
think they're
happened
the
once.
they're the
Yeah,
royal
elite.
guard of the emperor, basically.
Ooh.
So I get, for reference, the closest thing I could think of that from 40K, if you're not familiar, is imagine some random guy from the Leagues of Otan just obliterating a squad of the Custodes.
If that ever happened, I think we'd all cry for
I'd-
the
I'd-
Lord Brain.
Yeah, the
I'd
Harlequin
cry
was
tears
bad
of
enough.
joy. I'd be like, yes!
That'd be so funny. It'd be too good. The
well-
seething that would come after that would be just immaculate.
I would be salty as hell. I'd
All
be
the
so bitter.
custodian like players just coming out of their caves going ree,
Yeah.
just clawing.
Manling.
Oh man.
My range is so small already.
Ugh.
Guys.
But that is the dark beneath the world. They then promptly leave Carrick Eight Peaks, which is probably smart, because that place is a hellhole.
Mhm.
The next story is The Mark of Slanesh, which is another very short and sweet one. I think this one's honestly like 20 pages, if that. Gotrek has suffered a blow to the head, which
Aw.
initially Felix is like, he's probably just... He's a bit tired and sore. He's just a little bit concussed, but it's Gotrek, so who cares? He's fine. And his weird attitude he's got, he's probably just a bit dazed. They go to an inn then, because, Gotrek likes beer. He's a dwarf. That'll get him back on his feet. And some people start picking a fight with Felix. Felix, feeling very confident in not even in himself, in Gotrek standing next to him, it's like Felix is he's at a bar and he's like, I've got this really big friend rate. You're not going to mess with me.
He's doing that for Ragnarok meme of like, you can't defeat me. No, but he can.
Yeah, that. So he basically tries to throw Gotrek at them when it's looking like a fight is about to break out. Except it turns out Gotrek doesn't remember that he's Gotrek anymore. That blow to the head really messed with his head.
Oh no!
And he has completely forgotten his Slayer oath, like who he is, everything.
Oh.
So that's not great. So Felix gets his ass whooped, and him and Gotrek are thrown out of the tavern. And it also turns out the name of the story is because the town is full of Slanesh cultists.
Yeah.
Oh, is that it? Is it just the tavern? He kicked out of a tavern.
Yeah, well, no, there's more.
Oh, okay.
Gotrek,
That's a very short
you
story.
gotta fix Gotrek. Remember, they find an herbalist who's very sketchy, and when I say sketchy, in order to cure Gotrek, he tells Felix to go out and get some ingredients to make this nice draught to restore his memory. One of the ingredients he has is warpstone. No, I think that's not being used for the elixir, but he just has warpstone. When Felix asks him, like, isn't that horribly dangerous and basically chaos? He's like,
I don't know.
Nah.
That's me saying.
Nah.
that.
it's like, nah, it's fine. Dude, trust me on that. So Felix, now without Gotrek, because Gotrek is just kind of sitting in the tower of the herbalist in a stupor, has to go find all this stuff. And the whole story can basically be summarized as Felix playing the most dangerous game of chicken with cultists, mutants, I think some goblins at some point. And he's basically like, how like they give you advice, like when you come across like a lion or something, like look bigger than you are, or like some wild animals, like puff
Or it's
yourself
like, oh,
up.
if it's a bear, if it's a certain type of bear, you lie down and play dead. If it's
Yeah.
not, you run and
Brown
you
lay
never go up a tree.
down, black fight back, white you're dead.
If it's a polar bear, you accept it. But yeah, that's like with the mutants. Felix, like, he starts brandishing his sword, like, go away, go away. And because they're dumb mutants and just see big shiny pointy stick, like, no, we're going away. So it's that for like 15 pages. He's very narrowly avoiding getting himself beaten and or killed the whole time. And he eventually
occasionally
gets
in the background, you just hear someone shouting through a window, "Me so horny!" It's like, what? This is the next town.
and yeah, he eventually goes back to the herbalist finally, and he makes the drought, and the drought doesn't work. Gotrek still doesn't know he's Gotrek, so Felix just starts beating the hell out of the herbalist, just beating the crap out of him. And a pot falls on Gotrek's head, and would you believe what happens to Gotrek's memory? It's back.
Yeah, baby.
He does the
back,
PC
baby.
thing. Have you tried turning it off and on again? That's what he did. Perfect.
Yep.
They
It's like
Looney
blowing
Tunes
on the
their way.
cartridge, like putting it back in the console.
Yeah, and Felix fills Gotrek in on what's happened, and the story ends with Gotrek going, "Well, why don't we pay that town a visit? Go back to that tavern," and presumably a whole lot of bodies that you don't get to see in the end credits.
Did when the thing hit his head, did it make like the window sound like din 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 and like?
You know, I don't think they confirmed it, but I like to believe it did. Either that or like the sound of Wile E. Coyote getting hit with an anvil. That's one of the goofier Gotrek and Felix stories, but I love it for that
They're kind of
reason.
all goofy though. They're all a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
huh?
A little
But
bit.
that's the
Some
beauty
of them
of
are
the
sad
series,
though.
isn't it? Like, you get licensed to be a bit goofy.
yeah.
Can't do
Well,
that as a space marine story.
Yeah.
It's
Saying
too
that-
stoic.
saying that, the next one is takes a hard left turn into being very ungoofy.
Oh,
Gotrek and Felix now. This one is called Blood and Darkness. They're traveling through the Drakewald Forest, which is in like the Middenland north of Altdorf in the Empire. If you can find a map just to roughly locate it. And they find a young girl named Kat. She is the sole survivor of a beastman raid on her village. She hid, or I think someone hid her, and when the beastmen left, it was just her left amongst the ruins, so she just kind of wanders out, and Gotrek and Felix find her. Another hint of what Gotrek's life was like before becoming a Slayer. He's very out of character and like polite and kind towards Kat. Like, he just calls her little one and is like very fatherly towards her, compared to his usual view of people who either aren't Felix or people who are giving him booze, which is complete contempt at best. So he bit of a hint towards, not a big hint, but you could probably extrapolate. Some stuff that led to him becoming a Slayer happened. We'll get to that later, though. These beastmen were not just, all right, as a quick Warhammer Fantasy lore blurb, beastmen are everywhere. Like, a beastman raiding a village is like the sun rising. It is a completely unremarkable occurrence. But these ones are led by a warrior of chaos, champion of Khorne named Justine, who is on the verge of becoming a demon princess, and has a demon of Khorne in her head telling her what to do to become one. Which I thought was cool, because this was like before GW abandoned Khorne theoretically having an honorable side to him and being capable of subtlety and things
although I
that
do
aren't the
like
world eaters.
I do like the idea, though. It's just they're just going, kill her, rip out that baby's face, bludgeon that person to death. It's like, shut up.
Well-
stamp on that one to death.
It's even
rip
it's
out
even
that
a
person's guts.
contradiction in the actual chant of Khorne, is it? He cares not from where the blood flows, which is ironic. Surely if you were honourable, you would care where
He's
it would
supposed to
come from.
care.
Be like, that's not honourable.
He's supposed
Ah.
to care.
Well, the thing is, it's you need the blood needs to come from a worthy fight. He's got a war.
Yeah.
I know, poor Khorne lore just gets butchered like Khorne does. Oh, we did get another little donation here by Tom Warren. He
Thank
says,
you.
when I read the Amnesia story, I actually stopped to text my brother what Gotrek said. In quotes, not that I have anything against senseless violence, Manling,
Oh,
but
I forgot
why
about
exactly
it.
are you strangling that old man?
Nice.
That's
Thank you,
pretty good.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
That's yeah, that was a banger. Thank you for reminding me of that quote. I can't believe I forgot that. Oh, good stuff. But
That was good.
Justine, to take a hard left turn back into awful. Justine was assaulted by a noble before she was a Chaos Warrior, and which culminated her in wandering to the Chaos Wastes, returning with an army of beastmen and a prophecy stating no warrior can kill her, where she destroys the castle and the noblemen. She then takes her beastmen army, who are strangely accepting of her being in charge because the beastmen usually do not like humans in any capacity. Although they do love the chaos gods, and this lady has a demon of Khorne directly in her head, so that's more or less why they were like, "All right, you can stay. We don't like you, but we'll live. You will live with it." So all she has to do to become a demon princess is kill Cat. You were joking about that earlier, Andy. Pretty much what the
Oh.
demon was telling her to do.
Oh.
So it's literally the verse like, "Oh, you know, you're fine. Get the girl, do it. It's just do
Destroy
it.
the child.
Destroy the child. Do it."
It's like just made me think of Bill and Ted 2 where they're descending and there's just like aim for the cat, dude, aim for the cat. I'm trying, evil Ted. They just miss it.
Uh,
But yeah, Gotrek, Felix, and Cat fight their way to a nearby village, and they warn it of the coming danger. Sure enough, Justine and the Beastmen come on in and begin attacking the village, and Gotrek fights Justine head on. But the only thing stronger than plot armor is prophecy armor, so Gotrek can't kill Justine. He injures her. It's a brutal fight, but because of that prophecy, Gotrek just can't kill her. Like it's giving her in-universe plot armor. But when she sees Justine, or when Justine sees Cat, she abandons the fight and beelines directly towards Cat. And despite the constant misgivings she has about the demon telling her to kill the child, she finally decides, I'm just going to kill the goddamn child. And, it's revealed finally that, yes, Cat is Justine's daughter. Not exactly
Mm.
a great, not the most hard plot twist to see coming, because I didn't bring it up too much, but the whole story is not that long, and it's constantly filled with hints like, she's the daughter, they're related. Yeah, so she tries to kill Cat so she can become full-on demon princess. Felix tries to intervene, and just no uncertain terms, gets folded like an omelet. Yeah, not even close. But as Justine was strangling him to death, Cat grabbed Justine's sword and killed Justine with it. The prophecy is fulfilled since Cat is not a warrior; she is a 6-year-old child.
Damn, already got a kill count.
Yep,
Yeah. Damn.
and thus was the prophecy fulfilled. No warrior killed Justine.
And Khorne was furious, like, a 6-year-old? A 6-year-old?
No, he has not where the blood flows so long as it does. So he was
Nice.
happy
Yep.
either way. We
Oh,
have one more donation by
Mr. Idiot.
Mr. Idiot.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Idiot.
It
Banger
says,
name.
would you rather go on adventures with Caiaphas Cain or Gotrek and Felix? You vibe well with either choice, but you only get far enough. You only get enough plot armor to survive. Thanks for the laughs, Bok. Oh, I mean, what are you guys choosing?
I choose Felix. Gotrek and Felix.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
going
this
Gotrek
is
and
more than one
Felix.
person.
And me. Just
And
the
I'd rather
drinking
live in
stories alone
fantasy
would be
than
amazing.
40k. I think.
Caiaphas Cain is also, you'd get Jurgen too, but Jurgen smells like really, really
Yeah, it
bad.
smells bad.
Like literally like piss.
Supernaturally bad. But yeah, this story ends. Gotrek touchingly is like, Felix is like, like they're debating, like, oh, pardon me,
That's all right.
air got caught in my throat and I started
no.
choking on it. But they're like, can we take her with her? And like, no, we can't. We are actively seeking death. No, we cannot take this 6-year-old with us, or however old she is.
Mm.
And so they tearfully say they'll never forget each other. And Cat stays with the survivors of that village, and Gotrek and Felix are off to their next adventure, and on their way to the city of Nuln. But there's 2 more stories before we get to Skaven Slayer, so we're not there yet.
Is Nuln where they make the oil?
Not
where they make guns.
Nuln Oil, baby.
They're
Nuln Oil.
probably.
It's just for people who don't know, like lore reasons. What is the city of Nuln to the Empire, Colin?
The city of Nuln is the Empire's like capital of technological development and like making weapons, so like gunfire, cannons, like all that good stuff. That's what Nuln is. It used to be the capital, and then a fat empire moved it to a fat emperor who was useless moved it to Altdorf to hide from a fat goblin. That's a story for another time. Shout out to Grom. He's a real one.
The Paunch. The absolute Chad.
But on the way to Nuln, this story is the Mutant Master. They stop at a village known as Bloodorf, which not super important. I just like how they name the towns. It fleshes out the world. The villagers of Bloodorf are being held at ransom by a nearby sorcerer who has kidnapped all of their children. Out of fear, because they're afraid if they make him angry, or Gotrek and Felix make him angry, he'll hurt their kids. The villagers drug Gotrek and Felix and hand them over to the sorcerer when they're at the tavern drinking, slip them a little bit of a, something, drug or other, and then Gotrek and Felix wake them in chains in the sorcerer's tower. They discover that the sorcerer is a man named Kruger, who is actually a fellow student of Felix at the university in Altdorf. This guy left after it was discovered he was stealing some forbidden texts about chaos and all that whatnot, and he somehow got it into his head that this fourth-rate sorcerer could create an army of mutants to conquer all of the Empire with. From his starting power base of kidnapping children in a town in the middle of nowhere. He's got a go-getter attitude, if nothing else.
His CV, he's expanding his CV. He's working on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pair, Gotrek and Felix, then free themselves because Gotrek is a dwarf with a muscle mass index of 110%. So he just breaks the chains that frees Felix. And they cut their way through a horde of the mutants he's already created and cornered Kruger in his library. Kruger explains that the mutants they all just murdered were the children he kidnapped because apparently just like Spartans from Halo, children are easier to mutate than adults. And Felix sees red for a moment, throws Kruger out of the tower by the neck, falls to his death, and Gotrek goes, "Good job, Manling. I like violence. Good work." They then return to the town to once again pay them a visit, and I'm assuming this one also ends with a cut to black, massive pile of corpses by the time the story truly ends.
That's an awkward conversation. You're like, "Oh, did you see our children?" Yep.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. They are. They're growing.
Gotrek right here. Gotrek right here is going to send them to you.
I just
Send you
feel-
to him.
Every story though that you mentioned, there's a big pile of bodies. I just feel sorry for whoever has to clean that up. Like that poor guy. He's just like, right, oh, Gotrek and Felix been around. Oh no, not just there with the mop. Like, oh.
Well, thankfully, half of these take place in the middle of nowhere, so I think the bodies just kind of are left to rot.
Or Skaven, just like, oh, free lunch.
Or Skaven,
Nom.
Food. And then we get to the last one story in Troll Slayer, which is Ulrich's children. The pair are tracking a monster that Gotrek thinks is another troll, once again through the Drakewald forest. And while the forest, Felix notes, is unnaturally quiet, the wolves are also unnaturally active. Ulrich, by the way, for those of you who aren't aware, is known as the Winter Wolf. He's a god of the Empire. So Ulrich is he's doing something right now. The pair are separated, and Felix is captured by Tzeentch cultists posing as Imperial soldiers, alongside a woman named Magdalena, who the cultists have need of for one reason or other. Pardon me. When captured, Felix discovers that Magdalena is a child of someone known as one of the children of Ulrich, who is a werewolf. So hey, werewolves exist in Warhammer Fantasy. Only really in this story, but they are out there.
Oh, that's just like one.
They do have skin walls in Norska, don't they?
Yeah, this one is more like a traditional werewolf, though, like not chaos corrupted.
Runs on all fours, this one.
He's
He's the real
he
dude.
sparkles.
In the sunlight. Team Jacob.
Ugh.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
all right,
Anyway.
all right.
Wrong universe.
We have a Tom Warren, $2
Thank you,
donation.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom. The word of today is defenestration. Did I say that right? Defenestration. Is that the
Defenestration?
throwing fellas out windows? Yeah.
The action of throwing someone out a window.
Damn, that sounds like
Very
it
good.
probably was born in Bohemia for some reason. I don't know if
It's
anyone gets that.
throwing Protestants out of windows or throwing Catholics. I
happened
don't
a
remember
lot.
which one.
Enough to mean it happened enough to it was a common occurrence. at
The
some
good
point
old
in
30
history.
Years' War.
Good old, oh my god! Again, the Czechs have thrown someone out of a window.
Ugh.
I just like the idea. They were like, "This is happening so much. We need a word for it." Right? Okay. What are we going to come up with?
Ugh.
Good
But
stuff.
good stuff. The Chaos Band, including a sorcerer named Vorman, plan on using Magdalena to lure her father over, because her father is one of the direct children of Ulrich. It's never explained if they're like divine children or if it's just a metaphor, because they have Ulrich's support or whatever. But either way, he plans on using Magdalena, the guy's daughter, to lure him there, so the sorcerer can steal his body for himself, so he can be super strong werewolf man. Felix, after they're captured and put in a cell, does pretty all right for himself, honestly, especially considering that Gotrek is still nowhere to be found. He starts solid snaking his way around the manor and just killing a bunch of cultists, including the leader, but not the sorcerer. But Felix on his own has already taken out a good chunk of a chaos cult, so he's still pretty cool when Gotrek's not around. Around this point, the werewolf and an accompanying pack of wolves arrive and start ripping through the cultists. So solid Felix and werewolves are now here. So cult is going through it, but not before the Vorman sorcerer completes his spell and switches bodies with the werewolf. So while he was ripped to bits, but with his dying breath,
With his dying breasts.
That's not quite right.
Dying breast.
Ugh. The spell goes off, and now he's in the werewolf body. Felix, however, for some reason, the cult had a dagger of pure warpstone just laying around, which Felix finds, and is at this point the only thing that'll kill the werewolf, so Felix stabs the Vorman werewolf with it, and he dies. Not the most climactic fight in the world, but you can't fault him for getting the job done. And kills him. All the wolves that accompanied the werewolf originally flee, and Gotrek finally shows up, complaining about having to walk through miles and miles of snow to find Felix again. He declares that Felix says, this is Magdalena, explains the situation. He's like, but she had nothing to do with this whole affair. She's innocent. She's fine. Gotrek then goes as a shapeshifter. She is clearly corrupted by chaos and kills her.
Nice.
Oh, that was
Oh,
quick.
damn.
He just does that. Felix takes this about as well as you'd expect, seeing a random woman just get chopped into pieces. And it kind of sticks with them for a little while, and then they go to Nuln. And that was the end of Ulrich's children.
Wow.
2 dead werewolves, one of which because Gotrek decided, I don't like you.
You don't seem like good people. Thwack. Oh, that was that then.
It's
That was
literally
about
the
it.
version of we don't like your kind around here, and
Mhm.
Except he didn't make her just go away. He just unmade her.
split her in literally down the middle with the.
Yeah.
Wait, a big quick question: does he have his axe yet?
He
His
does.
Famous. So, just for a brief summary, what that's something special. Obviously, I won't go into details why, but Gosh is carrying basically a rune axe, right?
Yeah, it is a very potent magical axe. Felix has a magical sword. This thing, Gotrek's axe makes that sword look like it's a children's toy.
It's big, but it's hefty. This one.
Yeah, it's he has to wield it in 2. Well, he doesn't have to. He can wield it in 2 hands. Most other dwarfs would have to use it in 2 hands. Gotrek doesn't because he's built like just a monster. But it is a very heavy, very sharp magical sword that never dulls. It's something, and it will pretty heavily tie into later stories. But for now, it's just Gotrek's weapon of choice. It's not super elaborated on for now. Just some overall notes. At this point in the story, if anything, Felix is just afraid of Gotrek throughout all of it. He's a whirlwind of violence, and clearly has no problem committing murder if he feels like it.
Damn.
Felix also, isn't that skilled yet. He's getting there. Like you just said, he snuck his way around a manor and killed a bunch of cultists. He's getting there. But no one's quite where they're going to be a couple stories down the line. Like Felix and Gotrek aren't that close yet. Gotrek, only ever really calls him Manling, but at this point, it's not like just what he calls him out of familiarity. He's like, fucking Manling. Stop being dumb. Follow me into the Goblin Den. Don't be a bitch.
And also we should mention, Felix is not seeking his doom at all. So he's
No.
very much playing us in the story of like reluctant, like,
Yeah.
oh my god, the
I think he
pitbull is going in again.
I think he realizes though that any situation where Gotrek dies, it means that he's probably also going to die.
Yeah, that becomes something later on where he's like, I didn't think about this at first, but if Gotrek's dead, I'm probably next.
Yeah, he's just getting in the way of his hot girl summer. Like, oh, Felix, I want to be doing all these other things, but I can't leave. I'm stuck here because the alternative is probably death. Oh well.
But that is the end of the Troll Slayer story.
We have a
Collection of
few-
stories, rather.
We have a possibly just a few questions or comments, as this is somewhat well. We get again. We on a little bit away in the iceberg now, but now we're getting to the bit where it's like, oh, again, we can't see it. We're on the peak part. But I do have a question. It's kind of related, kind of not. My question is, what is the Ohio of the fantasy world?
Wait.
You don't even know what to think about that.
Probably Ostland. No, I
Ostland.
didn't know. That's it's a region in the Empire. That's like east. Ost is east.
Is it just as bad as well?
It's damp, full of mists and shadows and swamps and crap. So it kind of sucks. So I'll go with that.
I feel bad if anyone here is from Ohio.
I don't.
But you live in Ohio.
That's-
Even I know that joke. So.
That's American states. You make fun of the other states when they make fun of yours, and when there's no other people from other states around, you make fun
The
of your
French.
state because it sucks.
Or the French.
Or the
That was
French.
basically my question. Was I wanted to somehow dog on Ohio because I don't even know why. I've never even been there, but I just know people don't like it. Even the people who live there.
I always misplace Iowa and Ohio, but then I'm like, oh, but Iowa has Slipknot, so that's fine. Yeah.
Where's Iowa?
It's to the west. Wait, hang on.
Is it
It's on
near
there.
like the
It's-
Dakotas?
It's right. Yeah, it's right under Minnesota. It is immediately to the west.
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota.
Fun fact: I almost
Minnesota.
died in Minnesota.
Oh no!
Oh.
Minnesota.
Diabetic
You can't just say
problems.
that. Oh god.
Yeah. I was it was a family trip, and my insulin pump came up, but I didn't know, so I was just eating a ton of shit.
Oh.
And then we had a little bit of a diabetic ketoacidosis moment.
Oh no! And then you went to the doctor and
Little-
went, "All right, there. How are you doing?
Little
I
bit
did
of a
not.
funny.
Your diabetic machine seems to have failed. Oh, that's a shame.
I
I'm
also
from
puked all over my
Minnesota.
dad's car from the illness, but that was just funny.
Damn.
Just think of
See.
father.
Dad had to deal with that.
Someone says, Tom Warren says, don't you dare disrespect Iowa.
Maybe
Okay.
one
That-
thing
that's
in your
probably the
state.
only person
Maybe
who would
one thing in
defend it.
Iowa. Maybe one thing in Iowa.
Name me a thing
It isn't a
Iowa.
cornfield or something.
I was gonna say they've got goats.
Probably. They have a goat. They've
Yeah,
got a
there's a goat
goat.
on the cover of the Slipknot, one of their albums. It's like, yeah, that's Iowa. It's a goat.
They probably have a goat there, though. Does anyone else have any comments or questions
Any,
before
any
we...
other questions or anything?
All I want is to look like Gotrek.
Big true.
Yes.
So is there a thing with the dwarven biology where alcohol keeps their muscle mass in place or something? Because I'm like, I keep looking at the photos of Gotrek and I'm like, he drinks a lot. I'm assuming he eats a lot, and he probably keeps healthy and stuff. But like you'd expect him to have like a pot belly at some point, but he's like, no, not having that. But maybe
Dwarf
that's just
slayers are just
dwarven
magically
biology.
jacked all the time.
The thing is, like, they're fighting so often that, like, they burn all the calories pretty immediately.
killing an ogre burns a few calories, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Should also mention that like just for people who don't know, in reference, they've made it so far. We mentioned at the beginning, like dwarf slayers, they don't all have necessarily the same pact, and there is like a just a bit of expanded lore. Like, there's like a slayer god. Is it not Gurney?
There's-
Isn't
Grimnir.
Grimnir. Yeah.
Grimnir.
Grimnir?
Grimnir is the Slayer god, and they sort of have their own. It's a weird thing. They don't necessarily, I guess, worship in the same. The worship is basically taking the Slayer oath and then seeking a mighty doom.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like the
Good.
Slayer Oath. There's one person who technically kind of doesn't have to fulfill it. Ungrim Iron Fist, he's the king of Carrick Cadrin, which is like the Slayer Keep. So he has to balance, I'm a Slayer, I need to go find death, but also, I'm the king of this place, I need to keep it going for all the other Slayers to have a hub to worship and, get their names carved in the big pillar of Slayers and stuff. Everyone other Slayer, though, is like, well, I'm a Slayer now, I am functionally dead, it just hasn't quite happened yet. Time to go find death in battle.
And poor old Godric is seeking his mighty doom,
Mm.
which again Felix is hoping to record. I always wondered, like, if Felix kind of goes, just get the doom going, bro. It's doom
There are a
time.
couple times like, I fucking die already, dude. Come on, I want to go home.
Very much, but I mean, to be fair, it's weird when like most of the Slayer peak is just filled with essentially dwarves who are like not happy to be there.
No, they're pretty all miserable. They're still alive.
Is it? They don't have to serve in like the Slayer King's armies, do they? They
No,
can go-
it's just like it's a big hub for them. They can all gather and like rest in between missions to go try and get themselves killed. Like, oh, it didn't work. All right, I'll go get some food at the Slayer Keep and try
like
again another
increase
day.
odds essentially to like, oh, if I join the rest of the lads for like the bachelor weekend, so maybe we all get crunked at the same time.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
And it's like if any dwarf armies are like proper armies are going to war, like they may be like, hey, send a messenger to Carrick Cadrin, be like, we need like 100 Slayers. We're gonna go find death in battle, and then 1,000 of them will all show up instead. Like, we have extra.
Just imagining the quartermaster and the cook at the Slayer Keep just like, you guys again? Why aren't you dead yet? He's like, I'm trying. It's like, fine, what you need?
I don't think
It'd be
all of them are
super-
Slayers. To be fair, not all of them are. The
Not-
keepers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not everyone there is, but a good chunk of them are Slayers. Like people, there's the people who are needed, keep it running, and then everyone else is pretty much just a Slayer.
Yeah, it'd be a pain if your like chef was like, I have a Slayer oath too, so I'm gonna go like cook the stew, but first I'm gonna like charge into these Skaven just to see.
With
Like,
an
oh
apron
no,
on.
too good at fighting. Right, let me
No,
get the spoon out, the big
He,
spoon.
he cooks the stew by dunking his head in the pot to taste it. Like, all right, maybe this will do me in.
I suffer for the flavor.
Suffer for the flavour. With that being said, does anyone have any? There's maybe a few comments or questions here, which is oh, I can't read that one out. Tyrion and Alariel are the best couple because they are high elves, meaning automatically. But listen, crazy
Boo.
Scotsman,
Boo.
are you telling me that there's not a greater love story than Godric and Felix? Because that is deeply upsetting.
Look, I
Malekith
appreciate
and
their
Morathi.
romance, but
Yeah, because the only thing that's stronger than a romance is a bromance.
bromance.
Let's be honest.
Mm.
look, I
Or
appreciate that
Morathi and
sentiment,
whatever
but come on.
clothes she has, keeping it together. That thing is tight.
Come on,
We're
Vlad and
gone,
Isabella
Fox.
are right there, though. Come on,
Oh man.
Daddy
I
Vlad, come
apologize
on.
for that.
Vlad's right
I love
there.
you,
Him and
Vlad.
Isabella. He's a real one.
With that being said, though, we're ready to dive deeper, boys. If Colin,
Get
you're
back.
ready,
I'm ready for Skaven Slayer.
Skaven
where
Slayer.
the funny rat himself will
Oh,
make
this
his
is-
grand
I'm-
appearance.
oh, I cannot wait.
This after we got to Skaven Slayer, and the first story is Skaven's Claw. The pair finally make it to Nuln after like half of the previous series, like Troll Slayer books, were them going to Nuln. Finally at Nuln. It's funny, like we were saying earlier, it's like the capital of the Empire's engineering and stuff. There are just gunshots at random, and at first Felix is like just constantly ducking, and people are looking at him weird, like, dude, why are you ducking? It's just the engineering school test firing cannons. Because remember, this is like a medieval, like just ending, like entering Renaissance industrial era. So the people in Nuln are like, yeah, they're test firing the weapons. Everyone else who visits Nuln is like, Jesus, fuck, what is happening?
Is that one of the things like, oh, you can tell you're not a local?
Yeah, it's
essentially?
like, look at the tourist.
Or that scene in Band of Brothers where the new recruits are in like the tail end of the war and there's all the veterans and there's like a bit where a shell goes off and all the veterans are just standing around casually and the guy Tom Hanks' son just jumps to the deck and he's like, "You're right, mate. Calm down. It's just an
Yeah.
explosion. Don't worry about it."
Why does this remind me of
Yeah.
like, I think it's that video of the woman saying, you know, someone's not from New York because if they look up when someone's just randomly yelling or screaming, because like if you just yell, like nobody looks in New York because like
This
the
is a-
subway is crazy.
This is a
I mean-
certified American city moment.
To be fair, when I first moved to London, it took me a while to get used to like the sirens for both ambulances and police. I was like, "What is that noise?" Now I'm
going
just
on?
used to it.
Yeah. But they get to Nuln, except they have a problem. They're jobless. Adventurer is not a job. They do not make money doing that. They just leave bodies. They make bodies, but they don't make money. So they have to become sewer jacks, which are Imperials who patrol the sewers of Imperial cities. They look for mutants, heretics, and most importantly, Skaven lurking under there. Though that being said,
Not really.
they rarely, if ever, talk about the Skaven outside of themselves, because Skaven are considered to be a myth by most, and by those who are aware of the Skaven, that myth is like enforced and knowledge of them is suppressed. Because if people knew the Skaven were real, the Imperials would panic, because there's cities of ratmen living under pretty much every major city they have. And the Skaven would panic when they realize that the Empire knows they're all there and start an invasion.
And I can imagine the townsfolk and the village people being a bit stupid. Like, if we put a block of cheese over there, they're not going to come attack our house, are they? Because there'll be cheese over there. And you're like, you have weird
Not
panic
rural
strategies,
farmers.
silly
You
stuff
don't-
going on.
Well, you say that, but to be fair, that would probably work.
Well, the thing is, they'd eat the cheese and they'd be like, "That was nice. There's some people in that house," and then they'd eat them.
We eat them. Yeah, you know what? Fair enough.
We've
It's
got
a temporary
We did
fix.
get a donation here, another one from Tom Warren. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Tom.
Tom.
He says, I live in New York. That might be why I envy Iowa.
True.
I don't know if that's valid. Not
True and
sure,
real.
but we believe you. We hope you...
Look, anyone who lives in proximity to an American city can tell you that American cities suck.
But why?
Because I don't know. I
Too big.
just don't like
too many
cities.
people.
And to be fair, like London feels big, but then they're like spaces of like peace and sort of forest and stuff.
London.
I don't
London
like
is-
hearing gunshots when I'm at my friend's
Yeah.
place in the city. That's why I don't like the
Ah,
cities.
well,
And
I didn't
American
think
cities
about
are
that.
they're also centralized cities. They're not like your nice European cities where you can walk
Well,
places.
Fun fact
Yeah.
about London: it's technically a forest.
Really?
Because
Yeah.
there's enough trees, isn't there? And
There's enough green
Ah.
spaces, and there's something about the way it's technically it's a forest.
there are
Somebody
deer
else with the
that
cheese to meet
Yeah,
you.
Bushy Park. I've been there. There's like a section where a friend of mine lived there for a while, and you go to the park, and there's just like deers. It's like
There's
don't-
wild
don't
deer
go near
roaming
them.
around certain parks.
They
in
sometimes get in the
London.
road.
we
and
got
it's like,
that in
"Oh,
my,
get
we got
back
that
the
in my
park,
little
you
city
silly
that I
deer."
live in.
Dude, we have that too, except it's people on fentanyl.
Well, we have that
All
too.
fours.
We have the fentanyl and the deer. It's a
Hmm.
very diverse biome with lots of flora.
Why are they plants?
It's,
Fauna,
What?
fauna.
fauna, yeah. The Lethbridge
Ugh.
fauna.
The idea of like going to a city and watching people run on all fours just
I don't really
doesn't,
watch fun.
doesn't work.
Oh,
Speaking of adventure, though, we're in the sewers right now.
Skaven Slayer, Skaven Claw. This is the first story. This is all like the Skaven Slayer is still like one-off stories, but they work together to make a complete whole. So this is like Gotrek and Felix is still like starting to get like it's not quite at the point where it's like it's all one big novel, but it is now like the stories are cohesive wholes working together. So while Sewer Jacks, while they're working with a squad of Sewer Jacks, they come across a Skaven conversing with a nobleman. Pardon me. The sergeant of the Sewer Jacks is killed, and while Gotrek manages to kill the Skaven by tossing a hatchet directly into its brain, the nobleman escapes. And Felix did manage to see his face, which you think, well, which is helpful. The problem is it's a noble. Felix, staying at a seedy tavern, working as a sewer jack, is not exactly welcome in the politer areas of Nolan society. So if he tried to just walk around and point fingers at nobles, at best he'd get thrown out. At worst, he'd probably be killed. So he has a face and nothing else. No name, no nothing. But later that night, some luck happens because Felix has a brother named Otto Jaeger. And the Blind Pig Tavern Felix is staying at, he finds Gotrek and Felix, and he invites Felix to dine with him. And for the first time in months, Felix finally gets a taste at the good life again, which is not sleeping in taverns that are filled with bedbugs and rats and almost dying every other day.
And having to put up with Gotrek farting occasionally.
Yeah, and have to deal with that.
Slayer farts are the worst. They're deadly.
You say that? That is a plot point in one of the later books.
I could write a book about Gotrek and Felix.
Yeah. Well,
for reference, though, what is it Felix's family does? Thing is it they're merchants?
They're merchants, and it actually causes some trouble later on because, like, it's like that era, like in history, when like merchant families are starting to become wealthy, but they're not proper blue blood nobles, so
they're like an
they're not
in-between
getting
middle class.
Yeah, they're not getting the respect that of a noble would. They're looking down on them. So Felix's dad tries to get them into like higher society by buying his way in, but they can't quite. But that's for later. Their family is wealthy merchants, and Otto is next in line for that since Felix went to become a poet and then a dwarf rememberer. While he's dining with his brother, there's a man there named Fritz von Hallstatt, who is the chief of Nuln's secret police, so a little bit of some shady stuff going on there. And also the man who we saw in the sewers with the Skaven, which is a bit of a problem that the chief of the secret police is working for the Skaven. They discover that von Hallstatt has been working with the Skaven to remove mutants from positions of power, because in von Hallstatt's eyes, mutants are, a lot more insidious. They lurk in, society and corrupted and are evil and crap. Whereas Skaven are like, yeah, that's a Skaven. You know where it is. It's pretty obviously evil. It's a lesser evil because it's not trying to undermine us from within. He says as he's working with the Skaven to undermine Nuln from within because he is blinders on the size of a horse.
Yeah.
He's been working with Thanquol to do that. Thanquol is upset that he has to work with a lowlife such as von Hallstatt. I love Skaven mental views of the world, but he thinks it'll be worth it to succeed in destroying the city. And speaking of, enter Thanquol, the Grey Seer, the funniest rat. He's been placed in charge of the invasion of Nuln by the Skaven Council of 13, the High Lords of the Skaven. They, despite him being a goofy goober, he's also an incredibly powerful wizard that can pretty easily turn you into just dust. Assuming he's allowed to do so openly, because Skaven politics are a bit of a nightmare, as you'll see shortly. Pardon me. The underlings he has are constantly jockeying with him to become the leader of the invasion so they can get all the credit. But for now, he's in charge without question. Back to Gotrek and Felix. They decide that von Hallstatt needs to go because he is pretty clearly out of his mind, and all he's doing is priming Nuln for a Skaven invasion. For von Hallstatt and Thanquol's part, they decide that the sewer jacks need to go, including Gotrek and Felix, because they're going to reveal they're a Skaven under Nuln, so that's got to be dealt with. Gotrek and Felix decide to break into von Hallstatt's house to just get rid of him, via a secret entrance in the sewers he'd been using to meet with the Skaven. Thanquol, coincidentally, was also on a way to meet with the man. For some reason, brought his rat ogre bodyguard Bone Ripper with. Bone Ripper 1.
Bone Ripper 1.
Bone Ripper 1.
Never forget.
Never forget. It's a deep tragedy. That the Bone Ripper is always in my heart.
Indeed.
At any point.
So when he finds that the sewer jacks and Gotrek and Felix are there, he panics. Has his bodyguard Bone Ripper to kill 2 of the sewer jacks. They were twins. They get bone rippered. They get their bones ripped out.
God, that description is horrific.
Yeah, and Gotrek and Felix now break in and enter, and Thanquol always on his way. Like, he panics, and when he realizes they're in, he rushes in with Bone Ripper 1, then killing the final remaining sewer jack that wasn't Gotrek and Felix. So now it's down to just the duo again. Fun stuff. Gotrek waits outside to guard in case anyone tries to intervene, while Felix goes to confront von Hallstatt. And while von Hallstatt, being the chief of the secret police, is quite the sword fighter, Felix manages to best him through some cunning sword maneuvers. Thanquol runs up with Bone Ripper when he hears the fighting. He's like, oh god, no, I can't let him die. This is bad. But that means he had the tremendous misfortune of running into melee range with Gotrek, who cuts Bone Ripper in half with a single swing.
Oh,
He just bisects a rat ogre, who, for reference, are ogre sized at least, like probably a little bit
4 times
wider.
Size as
Gotrek
well.
size.
Yeah, they're like probably like 3 Gotrek stacked on top of each other. Just cuts it in half.
Just for people listening who don't like dabble in the fantasy too much, just imagine a massively overgrown rat, like say Remy from Ratatouille, just basically gets steroided the fuck up, and then is just swollen, a bit disgusting, and then it gets. It's a bit. They're pretty. Like, Bone Ripper's slightly different though, because Bone Ripper's got.
It's got some extra bits attached to him.
Yeah, extra.
So
extra fun.
imagine Remy from Ratatouille combined with Gusteau from Ratatouille. It's like the size of Gusteau,
Yeah.
but a rat.
What's the name of the guy who's in The Hunchback of Notre Dame? I can't remember his name, but basically that.
Quasimodo?
Oh yeah, Quasimodo.
Quasimodo plus Remy.
Yeah, that, but doubled in size and filled with nothing but rage.
Yeah, but now it's 2. It's
Yeah, now it's in half. It's been. I think he was
Gotrek.
cut down the middle too. If I remember correctly.
Biggie
God.
Cheese. He is not Biggie Cheese.
He is Biggie Cheese. Oh my
Mr.
gosh, that's
Bombastic.
Someone needs to make an image of that. That'll be amazing.
awesome.
And the story ends with Gotrek and Felix leaving and setting the house on fire before leaving.
Nice.
So now, in addition to inciting riots and a whole lot of murder, we can add domestic terrorism to their list of charges. They're heroes of a different variety. So yeah, that was.
Someone just put, "Don't worry, Bone Ripper gets better." Kinda. He died, but he got better.
there's more Bone Rippers to be had. Don't worry.
Don't worry. It's a running theme.
The next story is Gutter Runners. So Gotrek, after this all happened, they report to the sewer watch captain about, hey, there's rats into the city. The sewer watch captain does not believe them, so Gotrek assaults the guy. And they're now working as bouncers for Heinz, an old mercenary friend of Gotrek, and the owner of the tavern they're staying at. Pardon me. Felix is once again being a ladies' man and is now hooking up with a serving girl known as Elisa. They've got a relationship now, so they're up to 2. In the
death sentence.
Well, yeah. In the meantime, Thanquol's one-sided rivalry with Gotrek and Felix has finally begun. Now he's like, they're out to get me. They're out to get me. They're not. But he's also just been going through it since the last story. The Skaven have this thing called a Farsqueaker, which is Skaven Skype. Very funny name. And he's forced to explain to a Seer Lord on the council why how come Nuln is still around.
Did they accidentally far squeak to the Eldar in 40k? Is that still a thing?
They did in the end times.
They far squeak to the
It'll
Eldar.
probably get retconned to be like the Lumineth or something with Age of Sigmar now, but I think initially it was the Eldar.
That's
Commander
so funny,
Farsqueak
though.
when
What?
leader of the Farsqueak Enclave. That'd be good. I want to see a conversion of that model.
Be a rat who's far squeaked when no rat has far squeaked before.
But initially when he's talking to the guy, it's like almost completely static. So Thanquol, being the brilliant smart rat he is, just starts completely making stuff up about how Nuln, there's been almost no setbacks. It's going flawlessly. The chief of police died, who was my puppet. Don't worry about that. That was just a little hiccup. Everything's going flawlessly. And then they turn a knob, and then it turns out the image on the Seer Lord's end was completely fine. and he's been watching Thanquol BS his way and dig his own grave deeper and deeper this whole time. So it switches to Thanquol being like, "Not for about like a minute." When the Sea Lord's like, "All right, you're an idiot, but whatever." The plan has changed. The invasion will begin in a few weeks instead, and you're no longer in charge. A Skaven known as Vermex Scab is now in charge. You don't need to remember that name because he never actually shows up in the story. The Farsqueaker then explodes because Skaven tech does that sometimes. But before it does, the Sea Lord also informs him that his destiny is tied to the Slayer and Felix, which Thanquol is not a fan of. But because everyone else ran out as the thing was exploding, but before they could hear the Sea Lord go, "Yes, Thanquol is not in charge anymore." Thanquol walks out, puts on his best rat poker face, and goes, "Yes, I am now in charge still of the invasion of Nuln." It helps
Just
that
as I planned it.
Yep. It helps that a Skaven scribe gave him a note. Right after he gives him the note, Thanquol then kills him with the Skaven practice of shooting the messenger.
Oh.
Because he wanted to. He felt humiliated, so he took it out on a smaller rat. I think it was brutal, too. Like the rat got like flayed atom by atom like a Necron flayer.
Ooh.
Oh, God.
And then there was no more messenger rat. And he read the message that, does anyone want to read another quote?
Oh, Eli, do you have Skaven voice in you at the moment?
Oh, please.
You
Please.
don't have to do Skaven voice, but if you
Please
just want to,
Please, we beg you, we beg you.
Okay.
you don't have, I'm not making you.
Lament Skaven! Tragic news! Thanquol said, and even the coughing stopped. Mighty warlord Vermex Scab is dead! Killed in a terrible accident involving a loaded crossbow and an exploding donkey! We will have the traditional 10 heartbeats of silence to mark his return of his soul to the horned rats! Immediately, all the Skaven began to talk among themselves.
Skaven politics.
Well
Thank you,
done.
Eli.
That was great,
you.
and I
10
love the
heartbeats.
contrast of going like
Glorious.
and he goes immediately. All the it's just like he just shifted. That was perfect.
Glorious. People must appreciate that in the chat. That was glorious.
And as he's explaining, like, yes, this guy is dead, so I'm in charge. He phrases it in a way like none of the Skaven really believe him, but he phrases it in a way that's like, well, if you don't believe me, just go ask the Council of 13 yourself. And they all kind of think about that and go, well, if we're wrong, and he really is in charge, we're getting executed on the spot, if not earlier somehow. So we're just going to go along with Thanquol's BS. So Skaven politics are great. And he has decided his first new act as leader is to have a bunch of Skaven gutter runners, the finest troops of Clan Eshin, murder Gotrek and Felix, led by an assassin named Chang Squick, whose name sounds faintly racist.
It's on the edge. It's on the edge.
I'm just going to call him
the White Scars voice in the audiobooks.
No.
For 40K. If no one has not heard that, it's pretty much what you're
It's not
thinking.
great.
It's very caricature, and we will.
It
not
would have
do
been
an
better if
impression.
they got actual Asian people to do the voice lines and not guys trying to do Asian accents.
Yeah. I'm
It's
just
a
going to
bit-
call him Squick going forward.
I want Jackie Chan to voice my White Scars.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be fun. But yeah, so this guy, he's one of Deathmaster Snick's disciples, so he's pretty good at his job. I have a Hal. You haven't read a quote yet. Would you like to read the next quote I have?
Hit me with it. I'm ready.
This is Mr. Squick's training regimen.
Oh God. I don't know if I do a Skaven voice for that. There isn't one. Should I do a Skaven voice or not? I don't know.
It's just lore.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not
It's just
quote.
okay. Well, I'll just do a normal voice because it's a bit more normal stuff. While still a runt, he had been made to run barefooted through a bed of red-hot coals and snatch coins from the bowls of blind beggars in human cities. Even at an early age, he had learned that beggars were often far from blind and viciously proficient in the martial arts.
That's
Wow.
Skaven training. Run on hot coals and snatch
Secret
coins from beggars.
ninja homeless
Uh,
people.
I love Skaven lore, bro.
It's so just like someone out there went, yeah, but can I take a shot before I write this? Like it's just.
And then
Oh
in the
my
next
God.
paragraph, and then they made the atomic bomb of Warhammer. Wow.
And then they nuke the moon.
The moon. Oh, yeah. What is it? It's like, is it actually minions? Isn't it? The
Crouching
moon.
Tiger, hidden Oppenheimer. It's crazy.
Okay,
Nice.
that's not what I thought that would be.
But these gutter runners, they're going to split into two groups. One to assassinate Gotrek and Felix each. The first group's efforts, they go off without a hitch, and they all sneak into Gotrek's room, only to then realize that they broke into Gotrek's room.
You're not trapped in here.
they-
I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with
Yeah,
me.
they die. They die.
Sleepy
the sec-
time.
The second group is closer to a Looney Tunes skit than an assassination attempt. Where I think one of them falls on top of Felix, and Felix wakes up like, what? Huh? With Elisa, however you say the name, also still in Felix's bed. The entire it's just a mess, and her and Felix both run out, escape, and the short story ends with the assassins chasing Felix into the main tavern room, only to be killed by every one of the patrons of the bar because this is a seedy dive bar and everyone there is drunk and armed. So the Skaven assassination ends with a pile of bodies in Gotrek's room and a whole bunch of drunken, angry people beating the hell out of the
I
assassins.
just like the idea, the patrons just stab, 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 stab. And they're like, we done? Yeah. Go back to my drink.
That's pretty much what it was.
Damn.
Does Gotrek kill the main rat?
No, that guy, he actually escapes. He ends up hiding for several weeks before Thanquol eventually finds him. And he wants to kill him, but he can't because he's afraid of Deathmaster Snitch, who's the ultimate ninja rat. So he just settles for making him look bad and embarrassing him.
Which is the worst kind of punishment.
Yeah, because then the other Skaven are going to... Yeah.
Sounds quite Skaven-y.
Yep. Next story is Night Raid in Skaven Slayer. Thanquol's underlings are getting pretty restless and want the glory for themselves, but he can't just outright kill any of them because they're all members of the great Skaven clans, his direct underlings, and killing them might piss off those clans, and then he's going to get backstabbed by those clans, and he doesn't want to deal with that. So he just kind of has to sabotage their efforts. The first to try and win it for himself is a member of Clan Scryer named Heskett One-Eye. Thanquol learns from his sidekick, Lurk Snitchtongue, who's just a silly little guy.
That's a
that
great
Heskett-
name, by the way.
It
Lurk
is.
Snitch tongue.
That Heskett plans on breaking into Nuln's College of Engineering and to steal all the technological secrets the Empire has, which, given that this is the capital of that kind of stuff, that's a lot of military secrets. Thanquol can't have Heskett succeeding because this would make him look bad. Not that he doesn't think it would work. It would make him look bad and he wouldn't get credit. So he starts writing messages to Gotrek and Felix, warning them of what the Skaven are doing.
Oh my god. Skaven lore.
And
So wild.
he has Lurk deliver it to Gotrek and Felix and then run away before they can realize what's happening. And they read the message, and it looks like a child wrote it. He ends the message with "your friend," except it's YOORFREND, your friend.
Which is friend. Your friend.
Yeah.
With a smiley face. Your friend.
Frenemy.
He also writes it where it's it's obviously Skaven wrote this. He says treacherous Heskett One-Eye poxes be upon him. It's they don't say it word for word, but they look at each other this is a Skaven wrote this. A Skaven has just given us this fucking letter.
Their lore is so good. It's just it's literally the equivalent of felt
It's
cute
so
might
funny.
betray another Skaven later or something.
Yeah. But they go along with it because they're well, I mean, the rat's telling us where to go to kill other rats, so all right, I guess we'll go. Felix has misgivings about it, but he goes along with it, and Gotrek is I mean, I'll get to kill rats, so I really don't care that much. So The plan for Heskett is they're going to break into the college on a night where most of the engineers are they're at a fancy ball thrown by the Elector Countess Emanuel. And indeed, Gotrek and Felix, who themselves break into the college at night to stop them, discover the Skaven breaking into the college at night to stop them. Before they can stop Heskett, though, he climbs aboard the steam tank Nuln has for like training and whatnot, and just starts firing at them. Except you'd think that might be a problem for Gotrek and Felix, but Skaven aren't elegant at the best times, and in the whole chaos that just kind of happens whenever Gotrek and Felix show up wherever, Heskett thinks his own men are trying to attack the steam tank, when really they're just running away from Gotrek and Felix. So he starts firing on his own Skaven. Gotrek and Felix are getting shot at. They're fighting Skaven. Skaven are fighting Skaven. No one really knows what's happening. Gotrek, for his part, is just kind of swimming through the ocean of rats and killing anything that's close. Felix manages to reach the steam tank and climb aboard, and they start fighting. Except it's a steam tank. It's not big. It's very cramped. So between that, none of them know how to like pilot a steam tank, and they're also trying to beat each other to death. The tank goes wildly out of control and crashes into the sewers the Skaven arrived from.
Oh my god!
So Felix and Heskett both like just get the hell out. I should also mention that there was only 12 steam tanks ever created. So now one of them is at the bottom of the sewer. Gotrek or Felix and Heskett run out
for the Empire.
Yeah, and then the steam tank explodes.
Oh,
so now there are 11 steam tanks left in the Empire.
It could survive a battle with Chaos, Beastmen, Orcs, but then Gotrek and Felix are the ones who take it down.
Truly.
Yeah, and then I think the rest of the college is slowly catching on fire, and guards are all running, and then Gotrek and Felix just kind of leave. They just kind of dip. Like, all right, mission accomplished.
They just see that thing, we just go, and then just walk off very
like,
slowly.
What's that SpongeBob quote? We did it, Patrick. We saved the city.
I just imagine Godric just starts walking into it, and Felix is like, "Yeah, that's the idea. Let's just go."
Yeah, and that's Night Raid. The next one is Plague Months of Pestilence. Now it's time for Clan Pestilence to get involved.
My boys, my beloved,
Icky.
Their champion. Their champion is a guy named Vilebroth Null, which another banger name.
The names go so hard, don't they?
And his followers are working on a very pestilent scheme, a plague that will wipe out everyone in Nuln. It's already slowly been spreading, but their whole thing is like they're going to make like one grand ritual, and then it'll get everyone sick, and they'll just kind of melt. As it's going on, Thanquol once again gets word of this and sends another letter to Gotrek and Felix.
No. Would you have it on your wall? Honestly, like if they didn't.
I'd put it on my fridge.
Letters written Thanquol. Oh, so
and
Oh my gosh.
to make it worse, Felix and Eliza are sick. His brother sends them to a doctor named Drexler. And this is another like just world building moment where Felix and Eliza go to see Dr. Drexler, and after like as he starts like treating them and diagnosing them, Felix is very shocked. Like, where are the leeches? What do you mean you don't believe in the four humors? What's going on here? Just to give you a stage of what the Empire is working with, just neat little reference to, hey, look, modern medicine is being invented.
Mm-hmm.
He tells them, "Don't you worry. I learned in Araby, which is you can probably guess what region of the world GW is referencing when they named that one."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like to be subtle sometimes.
Yeah,
To be fair, even in was it the foundation in our parallel with our world was the periodic table was it the Islamic Golden Age where they just were like, we just invented the periodic table, like, oh
yeah.
Nice.
It's like it's like it doubles as like, yeah, it's horribly uncreative, but like Warhammer Fantasy is like kind of parallel Earth in a lot of ways.
This bit from history.
Yeah,
perfect.
like, hey, look, this is it's where all the science is coming from.
My favorite one is basically like all the Horus Heresy books where the quote at the beginning is done by it's like Wilhelm Shakespeare, and it's like, yeah, thanks. Yeah, not subtle there. Like they're all just like misspelled or misremembered names or something.
Very subtle, GW.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just says, yeah, you guys just got a small cold, settle down.
And then there was the great tyrant, Aldorf Heitler. Like, very on the nose,
no,
GW.
no.
What is this?
Who could this
was
be?
not
gosh.
that
I like the doctor. Yeah, the doctor's a cool guy. He and Felix then go towards the Gardens of Mor, like the cemetery of the God of the Dead. Drexler's like, hey, I think I can learn more about the source of this plague if I examine, like, those who died from it, because he's the only modern scientist and like medical doctor in all of the Empire. He's like, I'm gonna actually examine the people who died of this and maybe figure it out. And they eventually conclude that somehow the sickness is spreading from there, directly from like underneath the garden. Turns out this vile broth has something called the Cauldron of 1,000 Poxes. Once again, names go so hard.
So awesome.
A clan pestilence artifact of great, gross, disgusting, icky power. Gotchik and Felix, once again, doing a little bit of breaking and entering, just a little bit. Break into the cemetery once again under the cover of darkness. And while they do manage to stop the ritual from fully completing and kill quite a few plague monks, Felix also nearly drowns the guy in his own cauldron. It's tipped over, like, and it kind of spreads into the air. And Noel teleports away with evil, icky magic. And the plague's still spreading like wildfire, so not great. But they stop the grand ritual from going off, so Plague Months of Pestilence ends with a draw, I guess.
Everyone just goes home and say, well played.
Yeah.
The entire area
They all shake hands
stinks.
and leave.
Yeah. Next short story, second to last one, is the Beasts of Mulder. The Clan Mulder is now getting involved. Their champion is named Isaac Grottle. Which,
Isaac for
Yeah,
escape.
yeah, right.
Izak, so Izak, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Izak Grottle. Very fat Skaven and a representative of Mulder comes up with a plan to, clearly the fighting and the big, sneaky stuff isn't going so well. He's just going to starve them out. Of course, he's a Skaven, so he can't just cut anyone off with supply lines. He breeds a strain of rats that are basically always starving to death if they're not eating, and plans to unleash them on Nolan's food supply via some barges he probably murdered someone and stole.
Is that a reference to the Black Death, essentially, here? Like the
Probably.
rats on the barges, essentially. Damn. For
I'm
reference-
willing to bet that's what it is.
Just for people who are listening, for reference, Clan Mulder are the ones who basically experiment, and they are the crazy scientists, Skaven, and they don't make it's like a crazy powerful potion. It's more like we sewed 2 rat ogres together, and then we put another rat on top, and then we put a bit of icing sugar on it. Like, it's just a bit, it's
just
messed up,
We just wanted to see what happens.
pretty much.
Tom Warren, thank you for the $5, sir. Am I the only one who thought of Gimli when Gotrek smashed the pot? I'm always thinking about Gimli.
I get it.
The link's
Except
there,
it
the link's
worked
there.
this time. It
Well,
worked
there.
this time.
I like that. Just Eli just wakes up and he just goes, I like Gimli, and then he goes about his day.
I wish my pronouns are, what is it?
Grudge
Gimli?
and bear.
It's what my pronouns are whatever because I'll never be him.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I'll never be
My
Gimli.
pronouns are he and her because I'll never be him.
Yeah.
ugh.
And then the dance.
But Lurk Snitch Tongue, the guy that he is, learns about the Mulder plan through a drunken cousin who was talking about it, which is shocking to know that a Skaven managed to get alcohol and get drunk without getting assassinated.
Or has cousins.
Or that one of them cared enough about another Skaven to remember their relatives. And would you believe it? Thanquil sends Gotchik and Felix another
No.
message.
Oh no.
Mr. Emperor, a third message has reached Gotchik and Felix. Thank you, Thanquil. On top of that, there's trouble in paradise because Eliza's previous lover named Hans has shown up from the countryside. And the city is getting worse and worse. Eliza wants Felix to leave with her. Felix doesn't want to leave yet. So Elisa leaves with Hans, and
Oh.
it's very sad. And Felix has like a touching moment of sadness and regret where he's like, "Is this all worth it?" And then he looks under the floorboards where he hid his money, and Elisa had taken it.
Ah.
So then he's a little bit sad, and then he's sad for different reasons.
Oh man.
Oh
Poor
man.
guy.
Anyway, Gotrek and Felix. Sorry. Well, Gotrek is just angry as his default state of being. Felix is now depressed and poor. They go to intercept the barge carrying Clan Mulder's latest projects, and this one's actually pretty simple. You know, they once again sneak to the docks, deal with the Skaven on board, but one lucky underling escapes with a cage of the rats that he drops in the tunnels of the Skaven by accident, which means that now Nuln and the Skaven now have to deal with the hungry rats.
Just, why am I still thinking of the
Awesome.
damn crossbow and the exploding donkey? It's to do with Thanquol. Oh, I love Skaven so much. It's so good. Oh.
Oh, thank you, Skaven.
This exploding donkey.
Uh,
Stupid.
I don't know why. Because you mentioned the clan pestilence stuff, I came up with some possible names for some like Skaven-y. Do you want to hear some?
Skaven names.
I would love to.
All right, so the first one is Grundle Crust Poxlicker. We've got 3 more if you want them.
Get him out of here. God.
Or 2 more. The third one I haven't finished. Pus Grump Snot Gobbler
Nice.
and Rot Pickle Festa Tickle.
Oh my god.
There you go.
Can you write those down somewhere? Can you send them
I've
somewhere?
got them here, so I can send them to you.
I need to. I'm going to use that first one for like a Skaven character I played or something. That's his name now.
Pox tickle. Was it Pox
Oh.
liquor? Oh.
Foul.
Just something you were just
Disgusting, man.
talking there. My mind was like, let's come up with some weird and gross names.
It could be Nurgle, could be Skaven, most likely Skaven. Oh, that is brilliant though.
Ugh. Time for the
So-
Battle of Nuln.
So the rats are the problem, right?
The rats are always
the
the problem. We get the Battle of Nuln. The Skaven are dying from the plague because it's now spread to their ranks and is affecting them. The rats are eating their food. The same is happening to the people upstairs. No one in Nuln is having a good time. Thanquol devises a last-ditch effort to take Nuln. At the Elector Countess's palace, there's a masked ball being held because they're nobles and don't care that the poor people are suffering. That's a peasant problem. They're having a masquerade ball. Thanquol sends Squick to infiltrate it alongside some gutter runners and place a teleportation device where he will then deep strike alongside some elite storm vermin to capture and kill the nobles in Nuln. For the surface invasion, he deploys the 3 Skaven leaders of the great clans near the Blind Pig Tavern, not because he thinks it will be the best place for them, but because he's hoping Gotch and Felix will just fucking kill them already. Unfortunately, however, they have captured Lurk and are taking a message out of Thanquol's book. They write Gotch and Felix their own letter,
Oh my god.
letting them know.
Before we get to that, can I just mention that Chin Big donated 65 SEK, saying, who would win in a fight, Teclis or Magnus? Alternatively, Fanquil or Magnus? I wouldn't bet on Magnus myself.
It depends on what time you're doing it, because if it's like God Teclis and Primarch Magnus, I don't think Magnus has got a chance. But if it's like Demon Primarch Magnus versus like Mortal Elf Teclis, he might just invert him from butt inside out. Essentially.
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you for the donation. Thank you.
Yeah, Thanquol sweeps either way, though. He'd
For real.
find a way.
Always Thanquol.
He'd find a
Would
way.
fail successfully.
Especially
He'd
if
accidentally summon like Mortarion out of the field.
Especially if he's accompanied by Grundle Crust Poxlicker. Then he's
Oh,
unstoppable.
Stop.
Cross fuck.
Oh, that's a skin.
Oh.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, I
That is
should
trauma.
I should add that they perfectly emulate Thanquol's writing style because Skaven writing in Reichspiel is about on the level of a 3-year-old child.
They probably are 3, to be fair.
I honestly, yeah, Skaven lived for like 13 years, so they might be like 3. While Lurk is delivering that letter, though, about where Thanquol is, he does deliver it, but he's finally like caught by Felix in the act of delivering the letter, and he starts running through like the streets of Nuln away from Felix and Gotrek. Wow, saying that the other way around feels wrong. Felix and problem is mistaking Lurk's like panicked like fleeing for the signal to start the invasion. The rest of the Skaven then begin the invasion of Nuln. Because they thought him running away was the signal to go, go, go. So now Nuln is on fire. And it's just like the book just really captures why the Skaven are great. Because on the one hand, you have this endless tide of rats pouring into the city. Like buildings are on warp fire, rat ogres are ripping people apart. And then on the other hand, this whole thing happened because someone ran away and they thought that was the cue to go. And also half of the leadership is where it is because the other half of the leadership wants them dead. Yeah, fun times. Out of the, around the drunken pig, Gotrek and Felix, now they know where Thanquol is, although they don't really know he's Thanquol. They just know he's the guy in charge. They gather up like this massive militia of civilians and the mercenaries at the Blind Pig and just start bull rushing towards like the Nuln like manor, like the mansion where everything is happening. At one point, that rat assistant who escaped from the last story was either turned into a rat ogre as punishment for failing, or this is just another bone ripper. I'm afraid I don't remember which one. I like to think it's another bone ripper because then the count goes up.
Bone Ripper 2.
Who starts
he died
horribly.
Horribly.
Either way, that thing starts ripping through the civilian mob before Felix, from like the back of a moving cart, throws a bomb down its throat while it's roaring, and then it explodes.
Oh, like that thing in Doom where you put the thing in its mouth and it pops.
Yeah.
Oh, the ejected marker. Sort of.
Cacodemon
That,
thing.
but a lot more like accidental than lucky.
Was Thanquol watching through its eyes the whole time? Like, screaming at
no,
it? Or is that a
I don't
different
think
book?
I think that's later on with Lurk.
Bone Ripper 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, yeah, you're
Thank
right.
you, Tom Warren.
Yeah.
Also, epic cool, awesome Goblin Guy Real. God Teclis is overkill. I mean,
he's
that's
the
just
god
probably
of magic
yeah.
by that point.
Good to see you there, buddy, as well. We appreciate the
Welcome.
constant support.
Truly.
Bone Ripper, R.I.P.
One of the Skaven, Null, Vilebroth Null, is he's brutally beaten down by the mob. Like, they just trample the guy. It's hard to feel bad for him because he's a Skaven. Well, Heskett One Eye is killed when a building he lit on fire falls on top of him while he was admiring the beauty of the burning city of Nuln.
That sounds like an own goal to me.
It was a bit of an own zone, a self own.
Oh, I'm sad though. He lived. He died as he lived, tragically.
Exploding. And then Isaac Grottle is the only one to. He just dips. He's the only one to get away. Good for him.
He's carried around by a palanquin of rats, right?
I believe he is because he's so fat.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Skaven story is just so good. I'm
Truly
debating that I should go pick up the rest of the entire collection at this point, though.
Yes.
Spoilers though. No spoilers.
As for Squick though, who's back for his final edition, he goes to the palace where like the ball is happening, the masquerade, and accidentally places the teleportation device in the latrine. So that's fun.
nice.
He does get a little bit lucky, however, because he's discovered almost immediately. But between like the fact it's a costume party and everyone there is roaring drunk, they think he's just a dude in a Skaven costume. Because no one believes Skaven are real. He's like, that's a good costume of that silly myth. Nice job, bud.
Oh my god.
So that's how that goes. Thanquol and the Stormvermin do arrive, but because they teleport into the shitter, they're they're delayed from reaching all the nobles, which gives Gotrek and Felix enough time to make it before everyone there dies. Thanquol does arrive to the ballroom a little bit before them, and as the Stormvermin all take all the noblemen capture, he starts demanding the Elector Countess show herself. Except no one understands him because again they're drunk and he doesn't speak human very well. So he just starts murdering people at random with magic.
Damn.
Oh,
Good old Thanquol.
it sounds like something he would do.
I mean, it's what he does. Oh, he also kills Squick.
Oh,
No.
He just wanted him dead. Thank you, Thanquol. And also, he's high on warpstone dust this entire time.
I was about to say, isn't he he's pretty much an addict?
This
and
is
he's
regular.
snorting.
Like he's been ripping lines this whole time.
Oh man.
Countess Emmanuel finally walks forward, just in time for Gotrek and Felix to show up. Thanquol turns to look at them, tries to obliterate them with magic, when it turns out, hey, Dr. Drexler's a magician too, and shields them with his own magic. And as Gotrek and Felix start cutting down Stormvermin, Thanquol wisely decides to make his retreat and runs back to the bathroom to teleport away.
He lived as he lived in the shitter.
Yep. And the story ends with the city of Nuln
yeah.
rebuilding. The plague finally ended. The rats all died out. And Gotrek has received a missive and tells Felix to pack his stuff immediately. And when he asks why, Gotrek tells him that Gotrek only says that a mighty doom awaits the pair. And while I won't spoil much, because this will be for later, the next book is called Demon Slayer.
That's a good one.
And also
Quick question.
Thanquol's in it again.
I have a quick question whether, because Nolan obviously in the Skaven, they have to be they're intentionally kept as they're not real. Skaven aren't real. That's the kind of joke. How does Nolan cover that up afterwards? Because obviously, seemingly the entire.
Well, I believe Gotrek and Felix go back to Nuln at a certain point. And I think the cover story was, it's 20 years later. So a new generation has been born by that point, is grown up. So I think they just kind of describe it as it was a Beastman attack. Beastman.
They call them They call them Twisted Beastmen, don't they?
Yeah, that's the line. It's just some really messed up Beastmen.
Damn. Is that is that the thematic end of here part 1 in terms of
I believe it's after this
Very
it becomes
nice.
a bit more cohesive because all the Gotrek and Felix stories, the omnibuses will have short stories in them, but all the main stories from here on out are written as one novel, not either a bunch of different ones we threw together or a bunch of small stories that add up to a larger whole.
I'd say though that was I'm in. I'm so
Yeah,
in.
Hell
that
yeah.
was fun stuff.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
If people have any questions in the chat, feel free just to plug in a few last ones before we head off though. Some closing comments is damn, most of the Skaven stuff is so top tier in terms of the absolute buffoonery. I wish they had the equivalent of, I know orcs are kind of play that role in a little bit in 40k, but obviously they're in fantasy as well. I do wish there was a faction equivalent that aligned much more with the Skaven vibe, because it brings it reminds you all the grimdark stuff in 40k. It's just a little bit of silliness, honestly, makes even
But
the Infinite and the Divine.
From my perspective, again, I don't know much about it, but from my perspective, it seems like the orcs in fantasy are a bit less silly. Is that correct?
They've still kind of got the colors thing, but it's a lot more limited. It's like blue war paint gives the orcs physical protection, that kind of thing. But a lot more emphasis placed on them being obviously they've got the accent and the we loves the fighting and wah and shit. But aside from that, they're a lot more kind of like Tolkien orcs, where it's we just want to eat people. We just want to kill and eat.
Yeah, they
people.
seem a bit more sinister in fantasy a little bit.
I think a little bit more terrifying in. I don't know if orcs can be terrifying in 40k, but I think they're a little bit more.
Rinswell just reminding all of us, they are still really
the
horrid.
orc holding the person over the fire and laughing is pretty damn scary.
The Grimgar Ironhide trailer, I think, is the best way to look at it, because you got the goblin going around he's swatting at a fly, and missing it the whole time before Grimgor just snatches it. and then he's like, we gotta go get the dwarfs, the stunties, and the pointy boys.
Oh.
And then Grimgor snaps his neck, and then a million orcs are all chanting, like screaming into the air for blood.
We do have a comment, by the way, from Ado Hein, just saying, at Law Crimes, what's more dangerous, a Chaos Warrior with the blessing of the gods, or a Skaven slave rat with a Glock?
I mean, Colin, do you want to go first?
The Skaven is more dangerous, but mostly only to other Skaven.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, what's this?
Yeah.
If he's near somewhere he shouldn't be, though, like if he's accidentally found himself at I don't know, like the Nuln Engineering College or a hoard of magical artifacts, everything in that room is going to blow up.
I mean, it's like the equivalent to like is a javelin flying towards you, or is it a tornado? In terms of one that is completely reckless, and I mean, the Skaven is most likely to end up taking itself out rather than actually being.
They would probably hold it the wrong way.
I do have a
And then
question.
there'd be like 7 other Skaven picking up and going, huh?
They're fighting over it.
Huh.
I do have a
Like,
question
go for all the
for
bullets.
Colin though, which is Skaven they're meant to be like a bit weaker than men. Like, what's the equivalent of like, say we're fighting Skaven? Is it like 2 Skaven to 1 bloke sort of ratio? Or is it 3?
It depends. Like the average Skaven's like you could probably be like taking like 3 of those things. Like they're malnourished, they're not fed except for each other. Like one of them passes out and they all eat them.
But you do have the comparison with Darktide and Vermintide, though.
Vermintide.
Like, you hit them with a sword, either way, they fall over. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's negligible, well, at least with that comparison of like, oh, you got a malnourished Skaven or a malnourished Hive citizen.
There's a lot of protein paste not going around. Let's just say.
Mm.
I think the Skaven are all like inbred with warpstone, so they've all got a little bit of crackhead in them. So
And
they're
a
white.
ton of inbreeding.
and there's regular inbreeding.
Yeah.
We do have another donation from Tom Warren. Thank you again, Tom.
Thank you,
Very
Tom.
generous tonight. After hearing about the skill and discipline of the Skaven army, how do you all feel knowing that they will eventually conquer most of the world? Well, I guess technically there's a plot line to that with end times, but we
Well
don't.
deserved.
We don't.
deserved.
It's one of the most enjoyable parts of it is the Skaven uprising, and it's kind of the. Go ahead, okay, go on.
The Hornrat's children got what they deserve. Rightful
Yeah,
Skaven
but-
rulership of the world.
Yeah.
To be fair, they conquered the world and they blew up the moon. So they did. What did they throw? No, they threw the moon at.
First, they
planet.
pulled it closer to the Earth, and then Ikit Claw wasn't about to be outdone, so he blew it up.
With the help of the lizardmen, like they were trying to blow up the moon or something.
No, the Lizardmen were trying to.
Lizardmen made a
like,
big shield, I think, to not get blown up by the moon. I think that Lord Croak was doing crazy stuff.
yeah, like
Yeah,
no,
whatever.
the blowing up the moon, that was all Skaven, baby, 110%.
We have some more questions here, which is someone says, "When's the Caiaphas Cain Nurgle demon iceberg?"
That's a deep cut from way back in the day, isn't it?
That's a episode like 1 or
That's
2.
like episode
yeah.
first quiz. we
I
did.
forgot. I literally didn't know what you were talking about for a second.
Yeah.
Holy,
To be fair,
I
we could do a
remember now.
Caiaphas Cain at some point, because
I've got
He's a
all these
silly
books on
goof.
Audible, but I haven't started them yet, just because it's going to be a task. There's a lot to go through.
I think
Yeah.
Colin's definitely read.
I have read all of them.
He's read all of them, so
nice.
I mean,
Stuff like that.
between Gaunt and Caiaphas, that's like 30 books. It's like, jeez.
Gone, I got to read next, although I'm probably reading something else first, because I bought the wrong omnibus, because I just kind of grabbed it at random. I think it's like the 3rd omnibus in the series.
Oh my god!
Mm.
Someone says, at Law Crimes, would you greenlight a version of Skaven Slayer where Thankor has a 500 S&W Magnum?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure, wait. Oh, man.
Oh no. Epic Cool Goblin Guy says, when everyone's arguing about who won the end times, but you're a Skaven player.
The Skaven
Lucky you.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Crimson Glory again.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Crimson Glory says, I will literally pay for Andy to do a Skaven version of Necron Ovember. Want to see more from the 20th. That's Alpha Legion, I take that, in 40k.
Thanks so
Other
much for
than
the
that,
donation.
Bok. Thank you,
I don't
Crimson
know.
Glory. Thank you.
20th Legion is
Hey.
getting slim pickings. I've done like most of their characters now. There's not much left. But
That's
I
kind
have
of
I have been
Playing
tempted
around
to
with
do fantasy at some point, maybe like a one-off month here and there of doing just characters. But right now, I've still got a lot of 40k. It's like I'm trying to get through the 40k buffet, and once I've gone like, oh, that's quite filling, I'll get to the dessert of maybe some fantasy stuff at some point. But we'll see. We'll see.
I've had a few requests of someone on my thing saying, "Can you do a thank wall?" Like, and again, like that would be a long video. That'd be a long video.
You should do Sigvald.
Oh god, I'm trying to get demonetized. Basically,
The channel deleter.
Oh, end time Sigvald's story is so sad.
He deserved
I'll never
it.
forgive
I think
Throg.
he deserved it. Yeah.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Bro, he
Throg's cool.
freaking. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did not need to
Throg.
piss on his corpse, but you know, it's fine. It's
I mean,
It's called
he's
DM. It's like a Fortnite dancing.
Sigvald literally got Fortnite emoted on, dude. Oh my
someone says,
gosh.
at Law Crimes, when are we getting an Eldar lore video? Let Colin talk
Ooh,
about the
soon, I
best
hope.
faction. There's already enough
I
Eldar
also would like to do
like
that.
propaganda on this.
we did have a
podcast.
quiz recently, so there was that.
We can
It'll be
do
another 5 months.
we can do
Yeah.
a proper episode. To be fair, although
That'd be nice.
we've done some stuff before, but we might want to cover it in sort of the format, live. If
Yeah. When do
people
Eldar
are-
even get their codex?
yeah, maybe when the codex
2038.
comes out, we'll try and time it.
2 weeks before 11th.
Yep. Sounds about right.
To be fair, now's a good time to wonder. There's like a as of time of recording, there's a mystery codex on the
Does
roster.
that mean new faction?
Yeah, we don't quite know what it is yet.
If
It might.
If it's not,
Space.
if it's not Emperor's Children, I'm gonna be so.
It might not be a
freaking
new
mad.
faction.
Space Skaven. Space Skaven.
I wouldn't put it past UW to absolutely pull the rug out of us and just make a new faction that nobody wanted.
Again. Again.
They've still got to
Sorry,
fix
I'm just playing
Votann,
6th
though.
edition right now.
No,
Anyways.
do not say again.
Listen,
Fuck you,
Leagues of
everyone.
Votann
People
could have
wanted the
just-
squads.
It could have been an ally
Uh,
thing, an ally contingent of Imperial Guard and Space Marines. Come on, it
No,
doesn't-
no.
I
Stop
just-
giving
I-
the Space Marines more
I,
talk.
I just wanted an administratum faction where you have to buy a clipboard with your army and you have forms. That's all I want. That's all I want.
Someone says
That would
justice
be
for
great.
Bone Ripper. It doesn't happen. It doesn't- even I haven't read all the books, but I know that it doesn't happen.
Bone Ripper 5000 is just as horrible.
Space Thank with a steel chair. Oh my god.
Uh,
Someone said I listened to Elf Slayer. I
Ooh.
listened to that.
I haven't heard that
actually.
one yet.
There's a very cool. No, I know.
They
I know
can't. We
some
can't
of
say it
you
yet.
may disagree. Just say that I'm not going to say there's a very cool high elf in it.
Ah,
Certain,
his name Tyrion?
certain someone shows up. But we,
Oh no,
To
that's a different book.
to be fair, we will probably cover more of Gotrek and Felix. If you guys, if you made it this far, to be fair, do like.
There's
the
a lot to
stream.
cover.
Yeah, but we obviously, if it's enjoyed, we will deliver. And I think with that, though, is there anything else anyone wants to add before we finish it there? Yeah, I think that's it. Thank
think
you
they're
guys so much
cool.
for the donations.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this. Colin did a big showing here of lots of Godric and Felix. So
Yes,
thank you
thank
very
you,
much
Colin.
for that.
I'm
And
happy you got to talk about Godric and Felix.
yes, we get the opportunity. Again, the return of the old world as of time recording is kind of around the corner. So we
It's
want to.
coming. It's
If you guys
coming.
want to see it again, it will. It's the revival. Hopefully,
It's gonna
Maybe.
get Space Marine 2'd.
listen. When we're all 45, which is
Just-
sooner for some of us.
12
we
years or
will.
so, yeah.
We will hopefully have the old world return.
What's going on over there?
That was sorry, Andy. That was rude. I didn't mean that. And yeah, hopefully. So if you guys want to see more of it, just let us know. And thank you guys so much for watching, for listening. And
Oh,
we
you
will-
added more.
I added
No.
more names to the
is
Discord.
There's more names. Should we end
Oh,
with
man.
more? Should we end with the last reading?
Should-
Should,
of
I
the
added 3.
names?
Do you want to? Do you want to mention one each? So
Yeah.
start with like
Oh my
Hal,
gosh.
Colin, then Eli. You pick the
Oh.
last 3.
Is it the last
Okay,
3 on
sure.
that list?
Yep.
Yeah, the last 3.
Mold, snort, ooze, gargler.
Oh my gosh.
Yuck.
Scab drip clammy pits.
And toe flake fungal pop.
Like
So
a
all the
fungal
Death
pop.
Guard
Jeez.
players, you can use any of them if you want.
Oh,
they work
gosh.
as well for either.
Yeah.
Thank
They
you so
were
much for
very well
listening,
forgivable.
people, and we'll
Thank
catch
you
you on the
guys.
next
Yeah,
one.
just
We love you.
Scary.